What's up, San Diego? Good Wednesday to all of you out there. We have a jam-packed show on hand this morning and afternoon, talking everything under the sun in the sports world. The sports world in San Diego continues to heat up. Obviously, we're going to get to San Diego State and their game last night, and that was a rough one to watch for a lot of different people and a lot of different ways to break this one down. But, just talking about the Padres, everything like that, we're going to have a lot of great segments today about the Padres. We had some news, obviously, with Yu Darvish yesterday that we're going to get to, where he's feeling a little, so there's some inflammation in his elbow, and Mike Schultz, question about whether or not he will be ready to go before the season starts is a major question, which opens up another spot maybe in the rotation for a guy like Stephen Kolek, who yesterday got hit around a little bit in their game against the Giants. So we'll talk about that in the 11 o'clock hour. The Dodgers are now 2-0 and a game up in the standings. I'm actually glad that happened because now we could just focus on ourselves. We don't have to worry about dealing with LA. I mean, the Padres are going to be a game back in the standings on opening day before they even throw a pitch. So who cares? Don't worry about it. Good news is the Cubs are 0-2. That's a team you're competing with for a postseason spot. We'll talk about that at 11:30. You look at a couple other things that we want to dive into. We'll get you set up today with your bracket. I've had a lot of people ask me about filling out a bracket. I will probably do it tonight or maybe early tomorrow morning because you got to get it in before they tip off that first game, Louisville and Creighton. And there's a lot of different ways you could go about making a bracket. The way I always have to tell people about filling out a bracket, because I have friends going like, well, just, send me some notes. And I'm like, no, it's better to just fill it out yourself. Even if you know nothing about college basketball, it's better if you just fill it out yourself. You probably have a better chance than anybody that watches college basketball because it is such a crapshoot and something you can't predict that you're better off not knowing anything about the teams and just knowing that when in doubt, pick a better seed. You will probably do a lot better than people that watch it and are probably biased because of all the games that they've watched in college basketball. We'll help you fill out your bracket at noon. Double-digit seeds with highest upset potential. That's usually the area where you can really make some hay in the first couple of rounds. Never pick them past the Sweet 16, but we'll give you some double-digit seeds that have the highest potential in the men's NCAA tournament. And we talked about it. Dodgers are 2-0. That doesn't mean they're going to be unbeatable. We got a list of 6 teams that we think could take down the LA Dodgers. One of them probably being your San Diego Padres. A couple of guests for you today. Ryan James of the San Diego Legion will join me at 12:35 to talk about the Legion's good start. Last team undefeated in the Major League Rugby. A local kid at a Cathedral Catholic high school that went on to play in LA as a rugby player, has come back now, and he is the leading scorer for the Legion. Heading into this weekend as they have a big game over at USD. We'll talk about that with him at 12:35. And then coming up at 1:35, get you some updates on the Padres and Kyle Glaser. Haven't caught up with our friend Kyle Glaser yet on the new show. We'll talk Padres baseball with him to finish up the show today. And that's how it lines out. So a lot of college basketball, a lot of Aztecs, and obviously a lot of San Diego Padres. Let's talk about the San Diego State Aztecs game last night. That had to have been one of the most frustrating games that I had watched for a team that is one of the teams that I root for, because the game was over in like the first 5 minutes of the game. I mean, San Diego State got completely dominated on the boards. They had absolute no semblance of an offense whatsoever. They just kept chucking up threes. They couldn't find anywhere to get a shot off. And it looked like if you looked at the two teams and didn't know anything about them, and you knew that one team was elite at defense and the other one was a good scorer, you would say that you're lying. That's both got to be North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina played defense last night like San Diego State usually plays defense. I mean, North Carolina ran San Diego State out of the building last night. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, at one point, you had to ask the question, why even get on the plane to go to Dayton? I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, it looked like the last time I remember a game like that was actually when San Diego State was waiting as a 6 seed to have Syracuse out of the first 4 meet him in the first round, and Syracuse ran him out of the building. I mean, it was awful to watch. And it just looked like a lot of the players for San Diego State, had this. It looked like they were nervous before the game even started. And look, you got young players. It's a very young basketball team that San Diego State has. I mean, Miles Bird looked like he had something greasy to eat before he had the ball was slipping out of his hands every 30 seconds. They jumped out early and made a lot of, they took it, they created some turnovers. North Carolina sloppy with the ball, but San Diego State could have got out to a nice little roll and felt comfortable, but they couldn't put it together. I mean, their youth really showed. Guys that haven't been there before. That goes a long way. I mean, they didn't have too many, veterans on that team that could help out. I mean, a lot of the young teams that aren't having issues, even though we've only seen 2 games, they usually have some type of veteran leadership, or they're part of a program that has been there, multiple times in a row. I don't know how much I want to blame it on, lack of preparation and everything like that. That's part of the deal. I mean, you can't make that as an excuse. The gym time, or, it's a quick turnaround. I mean, it was the same thing for North Carolina. I guess they got to practice a little bit earlier, whatever it means. North Carolina went out there and took care of business. San Diego State didn't really have an answer for anything. And I don't necessarily think that, North Carolina and their performance is like, see, look, they deserve to be in the tournament. That means nothing. Whether or not you deserve to be in the tournament has no bearing on how you play in the tournament after the fact. That's a dumb narrative. That's a tired act. Oh, look, they deserve to be there now because they won. Give me a break. No, they didn't. They didn't deserve to be there from their metrics of the regular season. I mean, if you put a decent amount of teams in the NCAA tournament, they can win 1 game in the tournament, and everything's like, oh, yeah, look, they deserve to be there. Once the tournament is seeded, it's a brand new ball game. It's a brand new season. That's the same thing for teams like Florida State that didn't make the college football playoff. They got rolled by Georgia because half their team left. And it was like, see, look, they didn't deserve to be there. Or looking at another team that didn't make the playoff and, they roll at a bowl game. Hey, look, they probably should have been in the tournament. That's the same thing with some teams that have played in the college football playoff that got smoked. Oh, man, they shouldn't have been in there. They should have just had more big teams in there. But overall, I mean, I just felt like after the first, probably at the under 12 media timeout, it just looked like San Diego State thought the night was over. I mean, it was one of the most, one of the more poor performances I've seen out of San Diego State in a long time. And again, they're young, and that's part of the deal. And they played like it. Not to say if they would have been older, it would have been better. But, veteran teams do a lot better in the NCAA tournament than young teams do. It's very rare you get those one-and-done squads that could put it together because they're so talented. I mean, not only is San Diego State a young basketball team, but they're not as talented as a lot of other basketball teams. Ben Higgins said in the morning show, and I totally agree. I mean, there's not a lot of times where San Diego State lines up against a Power 4 school and has more talented players than they do. They don't. They don't have the same resources. They can't get the same type of players. They got to go with what they got, and it's usually a scrappy team that plays good defense. And last night, they didn't play good defense. And last night, they couldn't shoot a lick. And the years that San Diego State make runs in the NCAA tournament, they got at least a guy that could take over a game in a Jaden Ledee, Lamont Butler. That's the other thing, too. Speaking of Lamont Butler, I mean, the guard play could have been there for the Aztecs if they weren't playing for other NCAA tournament teams because they left. Because they got paid more to go somewhere else. That's not their fault. I mean, that's just the way of the world right now. They're playing by different rules. The small schools are playing by different rules, which begs the question to me and to all of you out there that love college athletics. And, we got 3 D1 schools in town, all mid-majors. Can the San Diego schools keep up in college athletics in this NIL world. I mean, look, as much as the Aztec fans want to be like, look, it's a young team and whatever, and when they come back, I mean, there's no guarantee any of these guys come back. Not with the transfer portal, not with a chance to go to the NBA. I mean, you don't know. I mean, with the way college athletics is right now, a lot of these guys might be just one and done and moving on. You got to go find something else. You could talk about being youthful all you want, but unless you bring those guys back, and I'm talking about Guath and Bird, some of the younger players, unless you bring them back and you get another year of development and you can keep them until they're juniors, that doesn't even matter. It really doesn't even matter. Look down Interstate 8 at USD. They did that 2 years ago. They went super young. They got Kevin Patton Jr., and they had which was, and he looked like, I mean, he looks like he could be an NBA level player. He did last year at USD. And they went with the young crew of guys, and they had guys like Wayne McKinney, and they had, I'm blanking on some of the other names, but they had a team that probably, if they came back this year, wouldn't have been the team that you saw over there in Linda Vista. But they left because they got paid to go somewhere else. And that, good for them. That's just the way it works. But if you're going to go youth and train up high school kids and you want them to develop in your pro, that those days are over. I mean, Rick Pitino even said it. Rick Pitino's St. John's team that got a 2 seed in the tournament that a lot of people think can make the Final Four. He flat out said a couple of weeks ago, we're not even recruiting high school kids. We're not even doing it. It's a waste of our time. Now, he didn't say that part, but it is. It's a waste of their time. Because in order to play at the high level, you need developed players. And right now, you need grown men playing college basketball. And San Diego State doesn't have that with, being young, unless you could keep those guys. But if you keep them after another year and they leave, then you got to start over again. There's a handful of players that were playing in different teams. I mean, Parrish didn't make the NCAA tournament because Ohio State didn't make it. It would have been nice to have him and Lamont Butler last night, but you don't. They're on a different team. But the thing is, with the way that this team plays and the way they go about it, I mean, they could be young and scrappy, but, where do you go from here? I think the whole, should have made the tournament and everything like that is kind of hearsay. They talked about it last night, whether or not maybe whether or not San Diego State should have made the tournament. Here's CBS yesterday after the end of the San Diego State game.
I'll tell you this, though. Here's the thing, Wally. It's about matchups, right? I know, we talk so much trash about NC, about UNC getting in. I got just a player side over it. But seriously, we talk so much trash about NC getting. Once you get in the tournament, North Carolina playing San Diego State. San Diego State, maybe they didn't deserve to get in because they didn't beat Boise State.
Good point.
And I think, is that a quad 2 win? Because that's what North Carolina's great at getting. Yeah. Is quad 2 wins.
That part.
Because that was a quad 2 win.
In the net.
The quad 2. I'll just say this, shout out to North Carolina. Did a great job of beating San Diego State. It's just it's just a tough matchup for San Diego State. They don't have the talent that North Carolina has, and North Carolina can easily, because of their talent, move on. But it's still a quad 2 win.
Didn't beat well. They beat Boise State twice, Big Bye. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're saying there, but it's the matchup game. But that's what the networks want. That's why you think you have this NCAA tournament expansion that they want to do. They want less of you, San Diego State, and they want more North Carolina. Let's just have all the big guys play in this tournament so we can collect all the money and get rid of all the mid-major programs as much as we can. I think it's an interesting question to ask. I mean, where does San Diego State line up in this, in any sport? I mean, we think all the problems are going to go away by just going to the Pac-12. And, San Diego State's doing the best they can and trying to pivot their way, into a spot. But they didn't handle the conference realignment as well as they should have. And now who knows where they're going to be at. I mean, they got to go out and be able to grab players that are, as big as some of the ones you're going to have to take on. I mean, go back and watch that Final Four team that San Diego State had. Go back and watch that 2020 team. They would annihilate this Aztecs team that they have. They were bigger. They were stronger. They were faster. They had more experience. So San Diego State needs to figure out what exactly the type of program they want to be in terms of how they establish a roster. Because it's a difficult time right now. The good news is you got Brian Dutcher and company and a good coaching staff. Now, I don't know what happened with the offense last night, but that being said, I mean, you got calm, cool, and collected Brian Dutcher who can lead a good program. But you're either going to be the program that goes and gets new transfers every single year and throws the cash around, or you're going to be the team that has to get freshmen and hope for the best and then be ready to say goodbye because the mid-majors are the farm system for the Power Four right now. I'm curious to see how UC San Diego does. I think they'll be in a little bit better shape because they got older players and they can hit threes. That's going to be a big, big asset. I mean, that's usually a recipe for success in the NCAA tournament. But San Diego State last night, I mean, that was just it was an embarrassing performance. It really was. I mean, at least keep it close. I mean, the offense at the beginning was just not good. It was embarrassing to watch. The defense looked out of whack. I mean, they didn't look like they even belonged in the same building as in that game. And I saw a tweet yesterday after about 8 minutes of gameplay from an account going like, bring the 16 seeds back out here. That was rough to watch. So in terms of the entire situation of, is it a successful season? If I told you at the beginning of the year you would have made the first four and got blown out by North Carolina, would you have accepted that? The answer is no. Tough loss for the Aztecs. But that being said, as we get all the negativity out, I do have some positive comments about the season, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Plus your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show just getting rolling on a Wednesday on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:23 on a Wednesday morning, as we take it through the afternoon at 2 o'clock, and Gwen and Chris coming up later on 97.3 The Fan. We got more college basketball later on today. A couple more first four games. Xavier in Texas will play, as well as Mount St. Mary's. And I'm blanking on the other team that's in there, but it's a couple of 16 seeds will play in Dayton, and then a couple 11 seeds in Xavier and Texas. So you got a little bit more tease of an NCAA tournament. Make sure to get your brackets in before tomorrow morning, as all the brackets will be due before Louisville and Creighton tip-off. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Aztecs get run out of the building in Dayton to North Carolina. And, overall, it is probably one of their more embarrassing losses in Aztec basketball history. I mean, I think I saw a lot of people comparing it to the 24 straight scoreless innings that the Padres had to finish up the postseason. But, there are some bright spots of the season, too. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just shred these guys. I mean, they did accomplish a lot of great things, and they have a lot of good potential in the future. The problem is you got to try to keep some of these guys. Especially Guath and especially Miles Bird. Even though Miles Bird really, in his last, end of conference play, had really just fallen off. The idea of these guys is to keep them part of the organization, part of the program, and develop, and hopefully that, you get them when they're in their prime. I mean, if they start, leaving for other deals and greener pastures, which is their, right to do in this day and age of NIL, then you got to start over again. And so where do you go from here if you're San Diego State when it comes to a lot of those kind of situations? I mean, you look back and, they beat Houston, which is cool, and they beat Creighton, two NCAA tournament teams. They lost to Oregon in that players tournament, lost to Gonzaga. They played a really difficult schedule at the beginning part of the year, but they just kind of went through Mountain West play, and they played young the entire year. They'd play with their food, and sometimes they'd get burned, or they'd play down to the level of their competition. They would make a lot of young mistakes on the court, try to go for a lob late in the game instead of trying to just get buckets. That's what happened against Boise State. I mean, I don't understand a lot of the things offensively that San Diego State tried to accomplish yesterday. And the thing with game plan, I mean, you can say game plan all you want. I mean, the other thing, too, is North Carolina hit a lot of shots. I mean, they hit a lot of three-pointers from, the logo. I don't know if that was necessarily part of North Carolina's game plan. I mean, they said at halftime, North Carolina's really executing their game plan. They look really good. You mean RJ Davis hitting a ball from the bracket of mid-court? Was that part of the game plan? Or the fact that San Diego State would go down, take one shot, a three, miss it, and you get a rebound against nobody? I mean, is that part of the game plan? I mean, that's the thing, right? So I don't know how much of the game plan was really a factor in yesterday's game. I don't know how much of the preparation really was a factor in yesterday's game. North Carolina played really well, and San Diego State got outplayed in a lot of different a lot of different aspects of the game. I mean, they've had a lack of ability to hit threes all year, last decade. They've had a lack of scoring, and their biggest thing has been able to play defense, and they didn't do it last night. So for San Diego State, I mean, yeah, they did accomplish a decent amount this year. But the thing is with San Diego State and wanting to be excited of taking the silver lining out of the season and going the young guys here, young guys that, the only way that makes it make sense is if they come back next year. And can San Diego State be able to keep some of these players? What's next for San Diego State in terms of NIL, basketball, and even all their other sports in the grand scheme of things? We're going to try to break that down when we come back. I mean, there's some things that they could probably do that might be getting held up. We'll explain on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. saw some people, tweet about this particular subject. We're talking about San Diego State obviously knocked out of the NCAA tournament last night in a blowout loss. And obviously a very rough game to watch if you're a San Diego State Aztec fan. I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning into the Braden Surprenant Show. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like. Really appreciate that. Really helps out with our algorithm to push the show out to as many platforms as humanly possible. So appreciate all of you guys in the chat. If you want to tweet at us today, B_SURP at BSURP. You can tweet at 97 through the fan SD. Put out the Twitter poll today. Ben and Woods were talking about it. And I was actually talking about my, buddies last night. But, for your favorite team, if you have to, if the team loses, is it better to get blown out or lose in a heartbreaker? Woods said earlier today on the Ben and Woods show, it's just better, just the blowout's better. Just get it over with and whatever. I disagree. I mean, TCU got blown out in the national championship. It's not fun. There's nothing to be excited about during the game. It's not a fun experience. You got to deal with all the people that didn't make the national championship pop off about how, bad of a performance you had. I mean, I thought it was funny, the Mississippi State guy after that game popping off on Twitter, about saying how they didn't deserve to be there and all this other stuff with the SEC. It's like, bro, you haven't even come close to sniffing a playoff game in decades. Shut your mouth. I know Mississippi State ain't talking S right now. But yeah, I'd take a heartbreaker. I would 100% take a heartbreaker. If the Padres lose on a walk-off in Game 7 of the World Series, you know what? You gave you made it back and forth. It's a valiant effort. You get smoked and the game was never you never had a chance. It's a little bit different of a feeling. Way different of a feeling. I would rather have it, because then at that point you're right there trading blows. Getting absolutely your ass handed to you is not a fun experience. And then you can sit there and be like, we probably didn't, how did we even get here? And then everybody remembers you as the team that wasn't good enough to even be in the championship.
I completely disagree with you here, Braden. And I know that you've been on the receiving end of, as you call it, an ass kicking with TCU and Georgia in the national championship game. I've had my fair share of blowout losses as well. And I've had my fair share of heartbreak. And I would much rather the game be over, decided. You're not going to get disappointed, and you know it. And you can already begin moving on from the loss before the game even ends, rather than having your soul absolutely crushed. My soul's been crushed so many times.
I can pull more positivity out of the close games, and just to play
a moral
away.
Victory in a championship or a playoff game does
it's not a moral
victory,
but I could just be like, all right, well, you know what? At least we're here.
But your heart's broken. Your soul was crushed. The other way, you're just like, you know what? I'm over it. We didn't deserve to win. We weren't the better team. On to next year.
Yeah, and then you have to deal with it's the aftermath. You don't want to be the team that just gets absolutely smoked, because people will remember that. The heartbreaker ones, people don't remember as much for the in the general public. It's the embarrassment of the general public saying it, anything else. But then the more you think about it, there's really only a handful of teams that get that kind of treatment, and that's like, the big teams out there like the Lakers and the Cowboys and the Yankees. People love, dancing on their graves all the time, where some of these other ones people won't remember. And the thing is with the Aztecs, I mean, if this was, it's not the first four, people aren't going to remember this game. In fact, they barely remembered the game last year with Colorado State blowing out Virginia. So it's not going to be something that is a something that's remembered too much. If you want to weigh on the show, again, you can put out the tweet. Somebody on there says, hard to say, never lost. The guy's never lost in his life. Wow, lucky to be you, buddy. Wish we could all be like you. A couple other people in here have somebody goes, if somebody actually chooses blowout, they should just deactivate immediately. Deactivate their account immediately. Chris Wobitz on social media, Chris R on Twitter. Heartbreaker, at least you put up a fight, but 20 plus innings of nothing. Hurts. 24 straight innings. Does. So those are some of the comments that we have seen. Somebody goes, I abstain, vote for neither. Bear Grizz. Bobierski on.
Well, obviously, no one's advocating for losing.
You're going to lose. Like, the game's going to end in a loss. So, would you rather have it be a blowout or a heartbreak? I'll take the heartbreak. I will. I'll take the heartbreak.
Like the Chiefs got destroyed in the Super Bowl, right? And my Falcons had the 28-3 loss in the Super Bowl. Would you rather be the Chiefs fan who you just got blown your doors off, or the Falcons fan who just annihilated?
Well, okay,
but the Chiefs also have multiple Super Bowls.
Blowing a big lead is that's a different story. I would rather get blown out than blow a gigantic margin where I thought I was going to win, and they should have won that game. And then all of a sudden, the Zebras got involved a little bit in that particular case. Bobierski on Twitter also said, and Aztec fans are like trying to defend their team. That's fine, whatever. I disagree in terms of 97 to the Fan Sports Talk. This season was a success. San Diego State overachieved with this young team. I, for one, was not embarrassed by the game. I'm proud of these guys. It was inevitable and a learning experience. Hopefully it fuels their fire. Learning experience for them to leave, dude. I mean, like, that's the case now. You know, it's not like you got these guys for 4 years. Learning experience for what? I mean, if they all leave, if Magoon leaves and Miles Bird leaves, they got the learning experience to go play for somebody else. Seriously. I mean, unless you keep them, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Let's get to the phone calls. Sam in Del Mar wants to weigh in. Sam, you're on the Braden Surprenant show. What's going on?
Thanks, man. Good. Congrats with the show. It's awesome. Love it. So you deserve it, man.
Appreciate it, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I kind of look back at the Game 4 and Game 5 Padres-Dodgers. Game 4 was probably the worst Padre game I had ever been to, but I had Game 5 to rely on. And then watching them lose it, I still go back to Game 4 as just being the most disappointing thing I've ever watched in my life. And then I look at San Diego State losing to UConn in the finals where they got blown out. Not as bad, but I mean, they hung in there and then it just kind of got out of hand. And I'm proud of them for making it that far because the expectations were there. So I think it really just depends on expectations rather than the level of importance of the game.
That's a good call right there, Sam. Appreciate it. Yeah, level of expectations might set the tone on the potential conversation of what's worse, getting blown out or losing by a heartbreak. I mean, I disagree with the tweet I just read too. Here's the deal. This is my Scraby rant or gripe. You ready for this? I don't know if San Diego's ready for this conversation. As somebody growing up listening to San Diego sports talk my entire life, I absolutely hated when a San Diego team got knocked out of a postseason appearance, or when a San Diego team had an embarrassing loss, or when San Diego team just didn't show up. And the next day on the radio, it was, "Oh, good job, guys. It was a great season. Everything's great. Like it's a little league team. Here's your snow cone for playing." That's not the case in other towns. We're better than that. We should have a higher standard. I'm not going to rip some college kids. I think they played hard. It's tough to win, right? I mean, so it's not like I'm going to get crazy East Coast sports talk radio for you. But I think the way that the program is right now and the direction they're going and what they have accomplished, Aztec fans, you shouldn't be satisfied with just making the first four. You especially should not be satisfied with making the first four and then getting annihilated by a team that everybody in the country said didn't even deserve to be there. You gave them a reason to put them in the tournament now all of a sudden. You gave them a bailout. Don't need that. I just better than that. We need to have higher standards. We've never won a championship in San Diego. We've never done it. Chargers did it in the 60s. I know the Sockers have won championships. I'm talking about like major championships. Never. We have never won a championship. And the attitude is always just satisfaction for the season. We're just glad we're glad to be here. We got to change that a little bit. Look, I didn't think San Diego State was going to win a national championship this year. Absolutely not. I'm glad that the team made the NCAA tournament. But the thing is, at the beginning of the season, I'm telling you right now, Aztecs fans, Call me and tell me I'm wrong. Call me and tell me I'm wrong. At the beginning of the year, you guys thought you were winning the Mountain West Championship. You did. I had many of you tell me that. This team's good. We're going to win the Mountain West. That should be the goal every year. You're San Diego State. You're so good you have to leave the conference, right? That's why you're going to the Pac-12. That's why you're going to the Pac-12. Even if you have a young team, your program has been the class of the Mountain West for the last decade. You should be thinking Mountain West Championship, NCAA Tournament, Sweet 16 every year. That should be the bare minimum, regardless of the squad you have. That's the program you've built. I know that's the standard for the program over there. I guarantee they're not satisfied with just doing that. They take the positives out of it. That's fine. As a coach, you have to take the positives out of things. So there are positives. Beating Houston was a positive. Playing very well in that Players Tournament was a positive. Every year you make the NCAA Tournament, that's a major positive. But you shouldn't be satisfied. Kevin yesterday said, well, I've been watching this team a long time, and I've seen where they come from. BS, dude. Enough of that. I have to hear that with TCU football fans all the time. Well, when I was in college, the team only, they only won like 3 games every year, and so we weren't very good. But the standards have changed. You got to change the standards. It needs to be better. It just needs to be better. For where you're at as a program, it needs to be better. You can't keep comparing yourself to what it was back in the day when it's like, oh, yeah, I remember when Steve Fisher had to hand out tickets. You're not that program anymore. You haven't been that program in a long time. The biggest thing is trying to keep some of these guys on the team. I mean, Butler, Paris, Saunders, not having Waters sucked too. But you got to be able to compete with some of these other schools and keeping these players. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Banna, you're on from Banna in San Diego. You're on Braden Surprenant. What's going on, Banna?
Hey, what's up, Braden? I'm still rocking my San Diego State shirt today.
Good.
Happy, we got at least a chance to play. And right when I see North Carolina, I kind of knew what to expect. Those guys are pretty much NBA players in training. So we have a good group of guys. They're young. And, my expectations this season wasn't that high with Reese Waters being injured and the preseason never getting back. We never seemed to kind of get a groove on offense, but I just want to say Miles Byrd got to really step it up this offseason if he's going to come back and make an impact. He got to hit the weight room, maybe work with some older players to build that confidence because we all seen it. We all feel for the kid. We know his heart's in the right place, but you got to have that fight in you. He kind of seemed like he was on the JV team playing the varsity squad, no disrespect to the kid, but he gotta take that next step. He has the game, but kind of has that LaMelo Ball style of play where he's like nonchalant, which I don't really like. I kind of want that aggressive, go right in somebody's face. So hopefully we can come back next year. I don't think we're gonna get Goff back. I think he's gonna get the bag, so can't be mad at that. But yeah, man, we gotta just maybe start looking at some JUCO players or going after some bigger guys because after we lost LeDee, we kind of don't really have an inside presence. And that's kind of what we need if we're going to have that defensive mind state that we kind of want to keep. So that's my 2 cents, man.
That's a good call, man. Appreciate the phone call. He's right on the big men. Look at San Diego State. When they've done well, they've had big guys that are physical and strong. When they've got, when they have big men that are, kind of skinny and don't have a lot of weight, they just get bullied in the paint. It's hard. It's hard to find those guys. There's a reason why the good teams have those guys. There's not allowed to go around. It's like linemen in college football. That's the biggest difference between San Diego State football and an SEC football team is the line. I know last year the passing attack wasn't very good for the Aztecs, and they're improving that. I still believe in Sean Lewis. But theoretically, if you took San Diego State's skill guys and they did 7-on-7 versus some SEC schools, they'd beat some SEC schools. USD's football team could do that. The skill guys are all over the place. It's the linemen that you need. It's the same thing with the big men in college athletics. I mean, Michigan's got 2 of them. UCSD's got to deal with 2 big guys coming up tomorrow. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Got my guy Ron in La Mesa, my Big 12 representation. Ron, what's going on?
Braden, welcome, buddy. Hey, San Diego, we're not the only ones that have to deal with this. The whole NIL thing is a travesty, and all you have to do is just look at the SEC. 14 teams? That's because they all got money at the wazoo. Kansas State, my team, TCU, your team, they can't keep players. We have to go through the portal every year. So San Diego State is not like anybody else. These guys aren't stupid. If they can make money, they can. Great example, Braden. Avery Johnson, our junior quarterback coming back, really good guy. Just turned down $4.5 million from Georgia to stay at K-State. Now, I ask you, I didn't know that they could actually go out and troll if they weren't in the portal. But this is what we're dealing with. So the NCAA has got to come out with something that makes it a level playing field. And Stephen, what was his name? Anyway, the guy on ESPN had a great idea. NCAA's got to come in and put a cap for each year the guys are there. Freshman year, they can qualify for $500,000. As a sophomore, it can go up to $750,000. You understand what I mean? But they got to make it a level playing field, or you're right, it's just going to be an SEC. Big 12 even got hurt this year, except for a couple teams. But in the Big 10, all these big money schools are just going to wipe us all out.
Yeah, that's the case. And Ron, I appreciate the phone call. TCU's basketball team last year made the NCAA tournament 3 years in a row, and they lost 4 of their starters to the portal to other schools. That's a Power 4 school with money, and TCU's got money. I know they got money. You don't bring Haley Van Lithon in women's basketball if you don't have some change. And they got outbid by they just left. That's why you ever wonder why you have the rules in professional sports for contracts and everything like that? It's for stuff like this. It's just the wild, wild west. That's why they have these rules, to keep things competitive. Now, I will say this. That's not the reason why the Aztecs lost last night. Before people start going on down a tangent on that. This is the biggest problem for the whole youth narrative. The whole they're young, and we got to bring them back. You got to keep them first. I mean, you can't go youth and not keep the guys. Otherwise, you do what USD did, and they learned that, and they're going to try to fix that problem. It's hard. It's hard to keep up, and it's not just the Aztecs. UCSD is going to have to deal with the same thing. But the good thing for the Tritons is they got an older team. So I think that you're at the point right now where mid-majors should just be old and go get old players. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Last phone call for the top of the hour. Kevin in Chula Vista. Kevin, what's going on? I know you got a lot to talk about with the Aztecs.
Oh, good Lord, Braden. You're right on just about everything. Just to clear up yesterday, the context that I used from comparing the past to the present is that I have seen a lot better Aztec players come out of the program than what they presently have. And so if I had a half an hour or more to break it all down with you to be more coherent, I would do that, but we don't have that luxury. So let me say just a few broad things here to hit your themes. First of all, this loss was a terrible loss because of the fact that you're on the national stage.
Yep. And
at a time of controversy of other teams, frankly, being more deserving, and I can't disagree with that based upon the trend of Aztec basketball was not good coming at the end, especially the loss to Boise State. Secondly, let me say this, and this is going to upset some folks. We may have seen the last of the Aztec basketball era as we know it because of the things you brought up. We are not a deep pockets community that can continue to fund NIL, not only for basketball, but now you're asking us to fund a football team as well. So I will correct folks. These are paid players now. They are no longer college students as in the old tradition of you can't touch these guys or criticize them. I can touch them and criticize them. There are several players on this squad right now, Miles Bird being one of them, I'm not enamored with. And there's too much inconsistent play, too much playground play lacks discipline, and I'm talking about straight across the board in this team.
Kevin, you're saying a lot of right things. I appreciate the phone call. That's definitely the case. I mean, first of all, like, don't go crazy with DMing players and doing that crazy stuff. But they can be held accountable. I mean, it's not like they're just trying their best and trying to get an education. We'll talk more about this. Plus, we got some info on Yu Darvish. What's the rotation going to look like come opening day? A little shaky now. Braden Surprenant Show, 97.3 The Fan. 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, talking a lot of Aztec basketball and everything like that. I got some more stuff on San Diego State. I mean, my biggest question with the Aztecs here, and it's not even sports related to an extent. What's going on with the rest of the Mission Valley project? Like, I'm sure, like, I could get Jennifer Van Grove on and I can get an update from San Diego Tribune. Like, I don't know. I'm generally curious because they got the River Park done, if I'm not mistaken, and the stadium's built, and they wanted to add, like, there's room for, like, retail and everything like that around the state. Like, when are they going to start building that stuff? You know, to me, it would make a lot of sense to help fund the football program and your athletic department if you build up that area, as I've been told people over there want to do, to make it a place to be on a game day and more, with bars and restaurants and retail stuff around the area of Snapdragon. They own the land now. They own it. Being a landlord in the state of California is a very lucrative business. And I know they're going to try to save some space for the research and academic part of things, which is fine. They're a university after all. I'm sure it has to go with some of the funding they got in order to build the stadium from the CSU system. But I'm generally curious because it made it sound like they were going to build that up relatively, at least start after. I mean, it's in the plans. They showed the plans. So it's not like I'm just throwing an idea out there. This was in their plans of their proposal of their stadium, was this particular setup. And I've talked to the people that are supposed to fill said buildings with tenants. Why haven't they started doing that yet? I mean, I feel like that's a lot better way to fund the football program and other things. I mean, obviously they can't just take that money and give it away in NIL. That's not how that works. But isn't that a way to try to get people in the area, into the Snapdragon Stadium? I mean, it's already almost impossible to get anybody to go to an Aztec football game. Build around it. People will come. Why, it's Field of Dreams. I mean, that's why they say it in Field of Dreams. So I'm generally curious. I don't know if anybody knows any details on that. But to me, I feel like that's a prime way to get out of a lot of their problems. I mean, the Giants do it up in... Now, that's a business. It's a little bit different. But the Giants still own the land that Candlestick was on, and they turned it into condos or apartments or something like that. They still own the land. They purchased a gigantic area of land. That's why everybody wanted it. So you could say what you want about Soccer City and like, oh, we're going to bring soccer here. They wanted the land. Everybody wants the land. They build the stadium secondary. That's just to get the votes. You build the stadium to get the votes, but you really want the land. That's where you make all your money. So to help pay off that stadium, you got to build around it. You got to invest, spend money to make money. I don't know what's taking them so long to do that. Obviously, permits and all. I get it. I know all the construction guys around town listening are probably like, permits, dealing with the city, pain in the ass. Yeah, it is. But that's what you do with the land, and it was in the plans. I don't know when they're going to start that. Somebody might know. I don't know. I'm just generally asking. Feel free to give me a call or tweet at me at @B_SURP. I'd like to know. I would like to know when they want to develop instead of having it be a $50 dirt parking lot, as said in the chat. I don't think it's that expensive. Maybe it is. But, the parking lots are not going to make you as much money as physical buildings that have establishments that would be fun to go to before a Aztec football game or a whatever MLS game. They did the River Park part. So had it in the plans. Would like to know. You want to talk more about the Aztecs? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. It's a lot of good back and forth on social media here with a couple of things. I'm hopefully like people understand where I'm coming from, but this is what you have to do in order to, you want to have a good program. People are upset that I'm a little aggressive here on the Aztecs, but it's like your goals should be a lot. You shouldn't be satisfied with just making it and getting blown out. I understand the circumstances of the season might change a little bit, but you can't be satisfied with getting smoked in a tournament going like, well, at least we got it here. That's great if you're UCSD and you've never been to an NCAA tournament before. Or High Point, or one of these schools that's just so thankful to be there. I guarantee if UCSD continues to do great things in the Big West, they're not going to have that attitude anymore. They're going to be like, yeah, we're here to win. I learned this, from one of my coaches in high school. There's no such thing as a moral victory. You lost. You don't get to hang a banner. I mean, they're not going to hang a first four banner. Maybe they will. I mean, I wouldn't hang a first four banner. I mean, you could hang an NCAA tournament appearance banner. That's an accomplishment in itself. But, just to be there and be satisfied with that, I wouldn't be satisfied. I think Aztec fans, you should want a little bit more, especially the heights that it's gone to. You can't lose the momentum of going to the Final Four a couple of years ago. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to transition to Padres baseball. So Stephen Kolek picked yesterday. He's trying to seize a rotation opportunity. He was competing with Kyle Hart for the number 5 spot. I still think Kyle Hart versus Stephen Kolek, I would have Kyle Hart. And if we were just talking about just the number 5 spot, I think Kyle Hart is starting to win that spot. Now, a little bit of a problem with that is got a little update on Yu Darvish. And, it was at the first part kind of like, yeah, we're just kind of resting him for a little bit and a little fatigue. Turned into, you know what? I'll just let Mike say. Mike Schultz, Padres manager, was asked about Yu Darvish. Here's what Mike Schultz had to say.
Got a little elbow inflammation post the game the other day. Again, some general fatigue associated with it. It's taking some time. Just got through playing catch. Feedback's a little bit early, but, talking to medical, we'll see how he recovers from it. Give him a couple more days. The alarm factor, we don't feel like we don't know what it is exactly. But he did have some elbow tightness, and he's got through playing catch, was a good sign, and we'll take it day to day.
At this point, this would seem to be possible to affect.
I mean, it's possible that it could affect the beginning of the season. Not saying it's definite, but it's definitely possible. Yes. But he's, through played catch today, so that's encouraging.
Has he had any imaging, or will he go for an MRI or anything like that?
Yeah, that's something for the medical department. If we want to release that as an organization, I'm not aware of that ability to share that.
How do you feel about where you are with your starting pitching depth right now? Some of the options you have in camp.
We do have good options. That part's good. We've got an opening day starter. We already had 2. We chose Michael based on the days. We got Cease, obviously, and, we're really been very pleased with Pavetta and what he's doing and what he's going to do. Kolek's going to throw today. He's had a really good spring. I wasn't able to see it, but the feedback I got from people I trust highly, including our general manager, feels really good about Mr. Hart. Ruben was very encouraged as well. And Vasquez pitched for us last year and did a great job and has, been better as the camp has gone. So a lot of good options. And then you have, Matt Waldron, who has recovered. I haven't shared that in that 24 to 48 hour period we had talked about. But that initial 24 and now 48-hour period has been very, very favorable for Matt. Still going to be some downtime, but overall, big picture, as good as it could have been.
So those are the updates on the starting rotation. Obviously, Matt Waldron will miss the beginning part of the year, as mentioned, with his oblique. So he's factored out of that battle for the last rotation spot. Stephen Kolek is battling with Kyle Hart. Randy Vasquez still part of the equation as well because Yu Darvish is dealing with some issues with his elbow. Now, I don't know, and we already know the Padres don't like to say more than they need to, but I don't, this is getting, we've been down this road before where it starts off like, oh, it's just fatigue. And then it goes to, well, it's actually this. And then you get the update that he had surgery. So I hope that's not the case. Now, the good news is he did play catch the other day. I think that is a positive sign that he's able to play catch. It's not getting worse. So hopefully everything checks out for Yu Darvish. It's only a limited amount of time that he has to miss. But this opens up an opportunity now for Stephen Kolek and Kyle Hart, now Randy Vasquez, to all be part of the team. I mean, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum for the last couple of weeks. They want some guys in AAA, but they also want a guy in long relief. And if with a couple extra spots now open in the rotation, maybe Randy Vasquez is part of the conversation a little bit more. I mean, Kolek yesterday, he did okay. He wasn't atrocious. I mean, you can evaluate it from what it's worth. I mean, I think he could probably start for this team. But I said it yesterday. For all of the pros that I have for Stephen Kolek, he's just not ready this year. I think he's a future asset for the Padres. But now he might be pressed into action because of what was the deal with Yu Darvish. A lot of people in the chat that are worried about the Dodgers so much. One guy in particular, it lives in his head rent-free. They live in his head rent-free. They're swimming in his head. He's so inundated with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Well, they played last night, and they're 2-0 now. Now that they're 2-0 and a game up in the standings, I'm actually glad. And I'll tell you why. Plus, is that really a home run earlier this morning? What's going on with that? We'll discuss when we come back. The Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Nice little rejoiner for you. One of the new songs my sister showed me. I like it. I added it to the group. It's The Little Things. Charles Wesley Godwin, if you're looking for that. Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We got a lot of Padres baseball to talk about, obviously, and when you're talking about Padres baseball, you got to worry about the rest of Major League Baseball as well. And earlier this morning was game 2 of the 2 games that they played in Japan, where you have Shohei Ohtani and, Sota Imanaga yesterday for the Cubs, and you had Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki and all the big Japanese stars playing in Japan in this regular season game, which I've already mentioned yesterday. Honestly, they probably go watch the games even if they didn't count for anything. I don't know why we got to start opening day, somewhere else at 3 a.m. I know it's for them, but at the same time, and I get the business aspect of it, but I feel like we always have to make the sacrifices for everybody else sometimes when it comes to the sports where we don't get all the big sports here, especially from Europe and European soccer. But when it comes to the Los Angeles Dodgers earlier this morning, they've now won 2 games. So now they're 2-0, and they're a game in front of the Padres in the standings. The amount of catering MLB does to the Los Angeles Dodgers is hilarious. I mean, even yesterday, they already have the best team money can buy. And they're loaded. They got the, Japanese superstar Shohei Ohtani. And they got really no holes anywhere to speak of, except for maybe, I don't know why Mookie Betts plays shortstop on the team. They got the best team money can buy. They can't go find an actual shortstop. Not that Mookie's bad, but I can't believe they play him at short. But yesterday, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run that had some fan interference with. I couldn't believe after I saw it, how fast they determined it wasn't fan interference. So I'm gonna pull it up for myself. We don't want to play it on YouTube for some copyright reasons and all that fun stuff. But the home run hit by Shohei Ohtani went to right field, and reaching over the stands was some fans, and they reach out and they catch the ball over the fence, or they touch it over the fence, and it drops into fair play. The ball's not leaving the ballpark. And you could tell they are completely outstretched over the home run line. And they go to review, and the review takes 15 seconds. And they're like, yep, home run, we're good. In what world? In what world is this a home run? In what world? The people on YouTube, you can take a look. I'll quickly show it. I've seen that play so many times in the United States. Fan interference, not a home run. I can't believe that was confirmed so fast. They're stretched out in front. The Cubs broadcasters on Marquee Sports Network had been losing their mind. And Cubs fans had to be losing their mind. This love affair for the Dodgers and just putting all of their eggs in the Dodger basket for MLB is such a bad look. Because when you got other teams, now here's the deal. You know what? Being in San Diego and being in their shadow all the time, you could see why Padres fans would be infuriated about the different rules that the Dodgers play by. And we've been saying it a lot for a long year, right? Because it's not comparable between what LA can do and what San Diego can do. And I'm not going to get into the weeds of that. We've talked about that enough with their TV contract that they have, or they could start the year with $300 million ready to spend, and all the money that they get in a major market and everything like that. And players, flocking to go there. they already have an advantage of the Padres. That's already a major deal. But when you have other teams in Major League Baseball also feeling like this is kind of ridiculous, and I'm talking about other teams that usually get catered to as well. The New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, the Chicago Cubs, the San Francisco Giants. The marquee teams that Major League Baseball wants to showcase in other cities. That's why we're blessed to have the Padres, because they have to show off all their good teams that they like because they're so archaic in Major League Baseball. But they have completely gone into saving baseball by using Shohei Ohtani and then really making the Dodgers the Major League Baseball traveling circus. Because the whole benefit of the doubt for the Dodgers and Ohtani, this will be the first time. This will be more. I mean, you'll see more of this. Just be prepared to be frustrated, Padres fans, when you have to deal with this in the regular season. I mean, it's happening to the Cubs. People love the Cubs. They got a huge fan base. That doesn't happen to the Cubs a lot. It doesn't happen to the Yankees a lot either. You're going to see with the Yankees too when they play LA. And the Red Sox in the American League. And all these other teams that usually get everything in Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trying to save their product by just going all in on Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers is making such a bad move. Because what this is going to do, it's going to infuriate the owners of the other big teams too. And in this club, I mean, everybody thinks they are the big guy in the room. I'm going to phrase it like that. The big guy in the room. And they don't like being second fiddle to anybody. That's just how these organizations are. And when you're going to see, already the offseason where they finagled their numbers, and it's all into the rules, but they have the luxury to do it, and now get the benefit of the doubt of everything else with calls and being catered to. What do you think that lockout's going to be like? They're going to be like, we got to fix this. We need to fix this. And that lockout at the end of the 2026 season is going to be catastrophic for Major League Baseball, because you already have enough people that are just tired of baseball's antics. I mean, they're trying to compete with the NFL, they're trying to compete with the NBA, they're trying to compete with college athletics. I mean, Major League Baseball, I don't know how many times they keep saying they're trying to go young. They're 10 years behind everybody anyway. And you know what's not going to help grow the game? I mean, you're going to grow it for one team in one country, but catering to Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers is not a great way to grow your product. Or everybody's just a giant Dodgers fan, or they just, I guess, hate them. It's not necessarily bad to have a villain in your sport. But I can't believe that call yesterday. It seems so eyewash with Major League Baseball. And the incessant talk about Ohtani. I get it. He's the best player in your league right now. But how quickly they got rid of, anything that was bad that was surrounding him, and how much they just continually shoved this guy into our world is insane. And last night earlier this morning was another example of that for Major League Baseball. I mentioned the Dodgers are 2-0. I'm going to tell you why that's not a bad thing for Padres fans, because maybe it will change our outlook on some things. To focus on ourselves and not about a team in LA that doesn't even matter to us until a 5-game playoff series. We'll discuss next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:33 on a Wednesday. How many days out are we now? 8. 8 days away from opening day. It's going to be a fun time out there at Baja Rick's. Looking forward to it. We'll be joining you guys out in the public on Friday. Going to be a fun time out at Dave and Buster's. Join 97 through the fan at Dave and Buster's in Mission Valley this Friday as we broadcast live all day long in celebration of the biggest college hoops tournament of the year. Ben and Woods will kick things off at 6 a.m., followed by myself at 10 a.m. and Gwen and Chris at 2 p.m., going up to 6 o'clock. And then we'll wrap up the day with Matt Scraby and the Matt Scraby Show at 6. There will be a breakfast burrito station, drink specials on mimosas, Bloody Marys, and beer throughout the day, basketball shooting competition, and hourly raffle giveaways. Join us at Dave & Buster's at 2931 Camino del Rio North next Friday for a full day of fun with your favorite fan talk show. It's going to be a fun time with the NCAA tournament going on Friday. We'll have some great games on for you. We'll be the breakfast burrito station is going to be awesome, and we'll be out there to say hi and chat with all you guys. It will be great. So looking forward to that. Want to mention we are talking Padres baseball this hour. Baseball coverage on 97 through the fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. So we've already had 2 Major League Baseball games happen that have counted for the regular season. And the Dodgers have won both of those games, which means they are a game up in the standings on the San Diego Padres, sitting at 2-0. So before Michael King even throws the first pitch of the season at Petco Park, the Padres are already down in the division by a game. That might seem like bad news, but based on the trajectory of where the Dodgers are supposed to be and what they're going to do this season, the less we have to think about them, the better. And I've already said, this has been the entire offseason, the YouTube chat has just been so enamored with what they've been doing up in LA. And I understand. You have to understand your competition to a certain extent. And they shut the Padres out for 24 consecutive innings in the postseason last year. They went on to win a World Series. Padres were a couple of games away from potentially probably doing that themselves. So that stings and that hurts, obviously. And then they went out and went and made their team even more loaded than they already are. They really sucked the wind out of Padres fans' sails going into 2025. Padres added at the margins. Again, they didn't have a ton of money to bring big free agents or make huge trades. I think people need to be realistic when it comes to the situation that is at hand for them. And so from that, it was just doom and gloom for the majority of the offseason. Now, I think the way the spring training has gone has gotten me excited for Padres baseball. I'm excited for the season to start in 8 days. I'm excited for Michael King. I'm excited for some of these storylines. I'm excited to see some of these young guys go out there and play. I think the way that they have handled everything during the spring training in terms of a mental makeup and the way that they've built their roster is successful. I think it leads to success. I don't think you necessarily need to have all of, the top players. And I think when teams get super overhyped all the time, it usually sets up for disappointment for that particular team. But here's the deal. All you got to do, here's why, and we've had this conversation a lot, and I flipped it last year, I thought, because they got close. If they get close to winning a division late in the year, go ahead and go after it. Padres haven't won a division since 05? 06? They won 90 games and didn't win the division in 2010. But unless winning the division puts you in the NLCS automatically, it still puts you in a position you got to win a 5-game series. And so your entire focus in terms of competing against the Los Angeles Dodgers needs to be, we got to beat them in a 5-game series like they did in 2022. And anything in a shortened series, you got a chance. Padres were listed as one of the 6 teams that could potentially take down the Los Angeles Dodgers. But what we need to understand, and I think what people need to understand to make the season more enjoyable, because here's the thing. If you are continually looking at what LA does and are so worried about Los Angeles, you're going to be miserable the entire year. You're just going to be miserable. So if you enjoy being miserable, go ahead, do it. But don't try to bring some of the misery around other people who are just trying to enjoy the season. I just don't. You're going to be miserable thinking of things like that. You got to not, and I've had this conversation before. I know it's hard. It's the only team in town, the only major, team in town before MLS showed up. You want to treat the team like it's the NFL. You can't treat it like it's the NFL. You can't. You can't treat the Padres game. You can't treat baseball games like it's the National Football League. It's not. You will go insane. Living and dying on every game. You will go insane. You can't do that with baseball. You got to break it down in stretches. And guys got to play good in stretches. There's going to be some 5-6 game losing streaks in the season. There's going to be some 5-6 winning streaks in the season for the Padres too. But don't be miserable about it because you're sitting like, oh, the Dodgers are doing this, the Dodgers are doing that. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You play them less times now than you did in years past. You haven't won the division in years. I don't even know why you care about that anymore. It gets you maybe a bye. I mean, up until last year, the bye was not even anything that favored teams. I mean, until the Dodgers won a World Series, people were thinking about getting rid of the bye because it was unfair. The Dodgers couldn't win. So I don't know exactly what you get out of the division, a sense of, being able to hang a banner, which I guess is cool. I think, I have said before, I think it'd be a nice gift to the fans. I think it's extra if you win a division. But we've been so enamored with what LA is doing. We overhype those series. I'm glad the players don't overhype that anymore and just view it as another series. It's probably better for them. But shouldn't be worried about the Dodgers. And the thing with the Padres too, and people want to we got people in the chat arguing about what the Padres front office has failed to do and everything like that. They're way better than they were the last couple of years, and they continue to get to their spot. Unfortunately, they've spent the money that they had willing to spend. There's only so much more I can say about that. What exactly do you want them to do? This is what the circumstances are. You have to view it kind of fair. They're not going to go out there and sign XYZ every single year. They did it already. They spent the money. The other thing they're not going to do is they're not going to just eat a bunch of money to ship off Xander Bogaerts. And I think Xander's going to have a good year. I really do. I think Xander's going to have a good year. I think he has a leader on this team. I think he's a good clubhouse guy. But here's the deal. You're stuck with him. So I don't know why you would root against this guy anyway. He ain't leaving. They're not going to spend money on half his contract to go away. That's less cost effective than just keeping him on the team. And the more these contracts rise, the less that contract hurts. Because in about 5 or 6 years, when you're still paying Xander $25 million, there's gonna be guys that are average players making that kind of money. And you're going to be like, why is this guy getting this kind of cash? That's just the way it's going right now. There's so many contracts out there in the National Football League right now that you're like, I can't believe they're giving this guy that kind of money. But you're worth what somebody is willing to spend. And people are willing to spend right now $15 million to $18 million for average baseball players. We saw that in the last round of free agency. So I feel like sometimes some people just have unrealistic expectations or lack of grip of reality when it comes to the situations at our hand in terms of the business side of things with the Padres and this Major League Baseball team. These are the guys. This is what they spent the money on. If you want to argue that they spent it on wrong, like whatever, but you can't evaluate these moves at the end when at the beginning it was like this was a good move at the time. The worst move the Padres made was giving Xander Bogaerts the contract that he did, but it's not Xander's fault. That's the Padres' fault. So it's like he's stealing from the Padres. He's not stealing from the Padres. They're giving him the money. It probably set him back a little bit with overpaying for a guy that they did not necessarily need. But you have him now. He's on the team. And even though the front office has made questionable moves, they've made a lot of great moves too. I mean, if it wasn't for AJ Preller, they wouldn't have Fernando Tatis Jr. on the team either. I mean, so it's a valuation of a lot. And where this team is at right now, it's way better than it was 11 years ago, and they're part of the conversation each and every year for the playoffs. Don't worry about the Dodgers in LA. Who cares? Let them do their thing. You got to beat them in a 5-game series. That's it. So they're a game ahead of the Padres in the standings. They might never relinquish that spot from the Padres or the Diamondbacks. Padres have bigger fish to fry. It's Arizona, it's Chicago, and it's the Braves, Mets, and Phillies, whichever one doesn't win the division. And I think it's going to be the Braves that win the National League East. That's who you need to worry about, not Los Angeles. It's time to get to the sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Adam. What do we got today? You said not a lot of big news, I guess, outside of our big topics here in San Diego.
That's correct. We're going to talk some NFL in a moment, but I'm going to start off in the world of Major League Baseball.
Number 1.
Showing this up on YouTube screen, but it was announced a few weeks ago that this will be the final season of the Padres' current City Connect uniforms before they get new ones. The Astros have unveiled their City Connect 2.0 uniforms. Like I said, I'm showing some pictures up on those for those watching on YouTube on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Go subscribe, watch us on YouTube, please. Why don't you describe Houston's new City Connects for those listening on the radio and give them a letter grade?
All right, so the Houston Astros City Connect 2.0 is pretty cool. So they have the old school like 90s with back the blue and gold Astros, where they had the star go across their chest, like the Craig Biggio Astros before they got to the mud and sand kind of look. So they have an ode to that on their chest plate. The phrase Stros has always been integrated in our fan culture. It's the first time the organization has formally adopted Stros, so that's kind of cool. They got the mission patch on the side. Hat logo's interesting. I don't necessarily know if it's the coolest. It's kind of looks angel-y to me with the Astros hat. Yeah, because it kind of looks like a halo a little bit on the
almost like the Arizona A too.
It's like the Angels combined with the Diamondbacks, and they made the Astros hat. That's kind of what it looks. But it's a white on white. Socks are, stance socks are kind of cool.
Call them afterburner socks.
Afterburner socks. I like that. Belt loop has HTX stitched along the belt line. It's homage to the city. I like them. I think they're cool. I mean, would I buy a jersey? No, I'm not an Astros guy, but all right. Probably like a B-. Doesn't look too bad.
Going with B-, yeah?
I go with B-, yeah.
Number 2.
Getting our normal screen back up there, but we've got 2 more first 4 games today in the NCAA tournament. Number 16, Mount St. Mary's versus number 16, American University, and number 11, Xavier versus number 11, Texas. American is a 2.5-point favorite, and Xavier is a 3-point favorite. Braden, who do you like in each game against the spread?
I like, what'd you say? It was a 3-point favorite for
Xavier, 3-point favorite. American, 2.5-point favorite.
All right. Well, American. And they're playing Mount St. Mary's. I'll take American with the spread, and I'll take I like Xavier in this one. I do. Sean
Chalking it
Miller.
up.
Well, now, does Xavier's coach in Sean Miller outsweat Hubert last night?
Something to keep an eye on for
Something
sure.
to look at, because Ben was already ready to claim, North Carolina's coach last night as the champion. But I said, don't let Sean Miller cook. I've seen that guy burn through some shirts back in the day.
Number 3.
Yesterday, we played a clip of Steelers captain Cam Hayward saying he had no interest in recruiting Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings have taken it a step further as they've reportedly pulled out of the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes.
No! The prophecy!
And will go with their young signal caller, J.J. McCarthy. This basically leaves the Steelers and Giants vying for Rodgers' services. He could also retire. Plant your flag, Braden. What will Aaron Rodgers be doing come week 1 of the NFL season? Pick a team, retirement.
I think a dumb team is going to go and grab him last second. I don't think he's necessarily done yet. Actually, I think he retires, and then I think he comes back the following year.
Going full Brett Favre here.
I think so.
At his age, you think he can afford to sit out a year?
I don't. Do you think he cares? The guy's a narcissist. I bet you he thinks he can.
Okay, so then the answer to my question of week 1 next year is actually retire.
Retire.
But then you're calling your shot and planting that flag. And
Yes,
saying he'll be back
I think
the
he comes
following
back
year.
the following year. That's my bold prediction on that. Or some dumb team picks him up, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Number 4.
There have been several proposed NFL rule changes, and I want to get your take on a few of them. The Detroit Lions have proposed a dramatic change in playoff seeding, seeking to reward regular season records rather than division winners. Currently, the 4 division winners are guaranteed the top 4 seeds based on record. Then the wild cards receive the remaining seeds. The Lions want the division winner with the best record to receive the conference's top overall seed, and then the remaining seeds will go in descending order of record, regardless of whether or not a team won its division. Feels like this is aimed at my NFC South, getting to host a home game in the first round. Are you on board with this proposal?
I'm not. Play the division. It's so cyclical with teams all the time. I mean, the Seahawks hosted a playoff game that one year along with Marshawn Lynch when they had a losing record and the big bad Saints went in there and they lost. And they lost. I mean, it's just my thing is, why have divisions then? What's the point? I mean, what's the point? Just to make the schedule easier? I mean, what's the point of having divisions? I mean, win the division and go. Does anybody care about the divisions in the NBA? No, because winning the division doesn't mean anything. It's just it's a waste. It's just let's just put us all in the standings. So if you do that, I say just get rid of the divisions and just make the conference records then, and then play random schedules. I'm against that. It's so cyclical. There's years where divisions are good. There's years where divisions are bad. You win your division, you deserve to have not only a playoff spot, but you should have the home field. You won your division.
Number 5.
The NFL's overtime rules are a constant source of debate, and the Eagles have proposed that the league use its playoff overtime rules in the regular season as well. In the regular season currently, the OT period is 10 minutes long, and if the receiving team scores a touchdown on the first drive, they win the game without the other team getting a chance to possess the ball. But if they don't score or kick a field goal, the other team gets a shot. But in the playoffs, both teams are guaranteed at least one possession, regardless of what happens on the first drive. Philly is proposing this also takes place in regular season games, and for the overtime period to be extended from 10 minutes to 15 minutes, which could help cut down on ties. If you were the commissioner of the NFL, how would you set up overtime?
I love college overtime, but the problem with that is you can't do that with the NFL because they would never not score. I'm at the traditional college overtime. The 2-point conversion fiasco that they put together is a dumb way to determine a winner. I don't mind the idea of the 15-minute. I mean, the thing is now is with the 10 minutes is these teams just burn all the clock and go we're either going to win this here or tie whoever gets the ball first. So it's kind of eliminated the whole try to win the coin toss, or it's eliminated what they tried to do to prevent the coin toss winner from winning overtime. Play a 15-minute period, I guess. It's hard in
Basically,
overtime.
the question is, well, do you think that both teams should be guaranteed the ball in overtime? Or, like I said, if you're a commissioner, you can change it.
I think I think both
that
teams
was Philly's
should.
proposal.
I think both teams. I like Philly's proposal because the thing is in football, especially with the way the rules are now in the National Football League, it's so easy for teams to score, and the way kickoffs are. I mean, you're already starting at the 30-yard line. You got to go 70 yards. I mean, first team to score for sudden death doesn't make any sense anymore. That's it.
That's it.
On the sports thread. Not too much today on a Wednesday, but we got NCAA tournament action coming for you later on, and we're going to talk about it coming up next. We're going to help you fill out your bracket. So get your bracket out. If you haven't made one already, print one out, and we'll help fill it out for you. Now, I'm not going to go deep into all of the matchups, but just kind of some advice on some of the different plays, the different styles of play, what teams have the best opportunity to go further, and some strategies that you could use to help win your bracket pool. Now, that being said, it's still a crapshoot. So what I say is not necessarily guarantee you a winner. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. You should do it yourself.
You mean you can't guarantee
I
what's going to happen
cannot guarantee.
tonight?
No, I cannot. I cannot at all. Because if I could guarantee San Diego State would be playing at 1 o'clock on Friday, and they're not. So I cannot guarantee. But I can help you with some of the ins and outs of filling out a bracket. We will talk about that next. Plus, coming up later on in the noon hour, Ryan James from the San Diego Legion will join us. I got a couple double-digit seeds with high upset potential in the tournament as well. And 6 teams that could take down the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the Padres, one of them. We'll talk about that at 1 o'clock. Still much to get to on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Lunchtime hour. What a better time. Can you name me a better time than right now as you take your lunch break and you got the show on? Thanks again for watching on YouTube at @B_SURP, at @BSURP. Follow us on social media. Got a lot of content coming out the next couple of days. A lot of content on YouTube, on the 97 Through the Fan page. A lot of content coming up on Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitter at @B_SURP. Be sure to give us a follow. Give us a follow. It goes a long way. We can help you out as getting as much of the content out there as possible. Everybody in the YouTube chat, take some time away from arguing with the smashing you-know-whats on Twitter, as he has tried to take on the entire chat by himself right now, and give us a like on the YouTube page. I mean, it's like Antibodies in there just feasting on this guy in the chat. Feasting! He's taking on the whole chat at once. Give us a like. It helps us out. I'm not going to ban anybody in the chat unless you say something incredibly dumb. But right now, it's lunchtime, so if you got to show up and you're ready to go and you're ready to fill out a bracket, make sure you got your printed bracket out, and let's help you break this thing down. I got the bracket right now it's going to be in front of me in about 2 seconds. And you got to get your bracket picks in for any pool that you're in before the first game. First game is tomorrow at 9:15 in the morning. 9:15 in the morning tomorrow. Okay? I already know that my mom at some point in time is going to want me to help her fill out her bracket late tonight. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show her this clip, and she's just going to watch this because I don't want to have to repeat it twice. Something like that. I remember her saying that to me one time.
Can I just say I've never understood this whole asking people to help you fill out your bracket thing? Like,
I don't get it either.
That's Braden, that's your bracket.
It's your bracket.
Your mom should fill out her own bracket.
I agree.
Based on who she thinks is going to win for whatever reason she thinks they're going to win.
Now people like that don't want, and I am not going to say that I watch hours of college basketball. In fact, I would say that in my sports thread group chat that I am in, I probably watch the least amount in the group. Now, it's more than most people, so it's not like I don't watch. I watch a lot of college basketball, but some of my friends are sick. They are sickos, and they watch these insane games that they have on TV. They would watch that game last night, that the 16 seeds of Alabama State and St. Francis of Pennsylvania. They'd watch that just on a Tuesday night. I will not. I will get angry at TCU basketball. Okay, let's talk about the bracket here. We'll start with the South region. In the South region, Auburn's the number 1 seed. Auburn's the number 1 seed in the tournament. Auburn's expected to go to the Final Four. I'm not necessarily picking them to be the national champion because I think there's a couple other 1 seeds that are better. But here's what you need to know before you fill out the bracket. A lot of experts right now are saying this could be one of the years that all 4 number 1 seeds make the final. It's only happened another time, and that was in the 2000s. I think it was 2008, 2009. I can't remember off the top of my head. The last time, here's the funny thing about this. The last time all the number 1 seeds made the Final Four was in San Antonio. This year's Final Four is in San Antonio. Don't think it really matters. But that's an interesting facet. So the last time all number 1 seeds made the NCAA or made the Final Four was 2008 in San Antonio, and this year's site is in San Antonio in 2025. So take that for what it's worth. But I will say this: a lot of experts think that the 4 number 1 seeds are by far better than everybody else in the NCAA tournament, and only a couple of 2 seeds might be able to get them. So just know that going in. The other thing I will tell you about filling out a bracket, just some regular strategy. You want to pick a couple of upsets early, but you don't want to pick them late. I mean, most of the time when you pick those 12, 13 seeds, right, or if you really feel like a 14 is going to win, even though it's not really one of those big-time upsets or 11 seed, very rarely does that team go on past the Sweet 16. So, and I know a lot of you are out there. Everybody that is a UCSD alum or is a fan of San Diego and wants to see the Tritons do well. Yes, I think they could beat Michigan. Yes, I think Yale could beat Texas A&M. Yes, I think the Tritons could go to the Sweet 16, potentially. If you want to go the 12-13 matchup, don't pick them to go further than that. And unless you're an alumni of UCSD and you want to make this is my fun bracket, and this is what I want to happen, don't make them go past the Sweet 16. And I wouldn't do that with a lot of the 12-13 seeds either. All right, back to the South region. Auburn should just hammer Alabama State. I don't even think that's game going to be close. Don't spend any time with the 6. There's not a 16. It's going to be to 1. It's very rare that it happens. Don't be the guy that tries to pick that. If you do and you get lucky, tip of the hat, you should go to Vegas or go play the lottery because you caught lightning in a bottle. Remember Chad Baker-Mazara, former Aztec, ended up going somewhere else, who's probably one of the oldest players in college basketball. He's less than a year younger than I'm blanking on his name now. This is the guy the Mavericks traded to the Lakers, Luka Doncic. He's less than a year younger than Luka, who's been in the league for like 8 years. Chad Baker-Mazara. He's got another year of eligibility next year too, by the way, if he wants to stay at Auburn. He's the wildest of wild cards. When he's on, he's a difference maker. He can make big time plays. I'm not gonna waste your time on the Alabama State game. Louisville and Creighton. This is a great game, and it's the first game tomorrow at 9 a.m. I like Creighton in this one. The 8-9s are such they're coin flips, guys. And the thing is, none of the 8-9s you should pick against the 1 anyway this year. So whatever you pick, it's only going to go one round and that's it. So it's not like it's going to kill you in the bracket. Because the thing that kills you in the brackets is not getting the Final Four in the national championship. You got to hit on those, and then everything else is gravy. The more Elite 8 and Sweet 16s you could do, the better. In fact, I recommend filling from the middle part out, because that really helps you in terms of trying to solidify the best teams at the end, because it's worth more points in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 and the Final Four and the national championship. I like Creighton over Louisville. It's a coin flip game. Don't be too, enamored with that. They would technically be the upset. No real upset in an 8-9 game. Louisville's had a great year, increasing its win total by 19 from the year ago. Chucky Hepburn is a great point guard to control the game, but Creighton's probably going to handle it. I mean, they're the best. They have the best defensive player in the Big East in Ryan Kalkbrenner. I like Creighton. Michigan, UCSD. Michigan's only a 2.5-point favorite this game. And they got two big men. They got two 7-footers in the middle in Vladislav Golden and Danny Wolf. They run pick and rolls. I mean, they're one of the most skilled bigs in the country. Now, that being said, as one of our friends in the chat had mentioned before, who's a Michigan fan, they played TCU earlier this year. TCU didn't have their big guy, and they still were able to be within one possession late in that game, and TCU's not very good. So say what you want about that. The thing that counteracts all the big guy play and all the big men play for Michigan is the way that UCSD, very good defensive team, one of the best in the country in terms of forcing turnovers, and good defense and forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over. Oh, and by the way, being really good at hitting threes, that's a recipe for success in the NCAA tournament. We'll break down Michigan UCSD a little bit more tomorrow when we actually have the game coming up. But in terms of like a sneaky upset pick, it's a moderate potential. So if you're looking for that 12-13 and you want to rep San Diego, like that's not a bad pick for UCSD compared to the matchup to Michigan. Hayden Gray, one of the best defenders in the country, leads the nation in steals. And as Ben Higgins alluded to earlier today, it's 100% true. It's one of the older teams in the country. Old teams in the country in college basketball, teams that can hit threes, teams that force turnovers, teams that play good defense. Those teams are all recipes for success, and those are teams that usually upset big seeds in the NCAA tournament. I like the Tritons. Texas A&M and Yale. I don't trust Texas A&M at all. I've never trusted Texas A&M. I'm probably a little biased. Texas A&M chokes all the time. They choke all the time. And you know who gets schools all the time? Yale. Yale did it last year against Auburn. So Texas A&M, Yale, if you're looking for that 12-13 kind of combo, that's your best opportunity. But we're going to have more upsets later on in the hour. We'll get to the upsets that you should look for in the first round. But I'm not necessarily huge on Texas A&M. Ole Miss, North Carolina. Ole Miss is pretty good, but I think North Carolina being hot right now, that might play on Friday. So, don't be afraid to pick North Carolina just because they beat the Aztecs and everything like that. Here's where it gets a little interesting in the bottom half of the bracket of this particular region. Michigan State should be able to handle most of the bottom half of that bracket, the 2 seed. Expect them to go to the Elite 8. Tom Izzo is March, and he does well in March, and they ain't losing the first round of Bryant, and they're probably going to get Marquette or New Mexico. I would expect them to roll through. Their biggest challenge will be against Iowa State, but the thing with Iowa State is you don't know what Iowa State team's showing up because there's still some injury concerns. They got the best 6-man in the country in Curtis Jones. He can score a lot. Keyshawn Gilbert is not going to play, but they're still going to be tough to beat. It's just whether or not they're going to be healthy enough to beat Michigan State. I tend to say no. So I'd like Michigan State coming through, the bottom half of the bracket. Marquette, New Mexico, Cam Jones is a lefty that the early candidate for National Player of the Year before, Johnny Broome and Cooper Flagg kind of really took over for at the college scene. Cooper Flagg obviously for Duke, and we'll get to that when we get to that region. We'll talk about Cooper Flagg and what his health status is. I mean, even like a 60-70% Cooper Flagg's probably good enough for Duke. But Marquette, New Mexico, this is a pretty high potential for an upset. Now, the knock on the Mountain West is nobody wins in the Mountain West. Nobody in the Mountain West wins in the tournament except for San Diego State the last couple of years. But this New Mexico team's very good. They got one of the best point guards in the country. Guard play wins in the NCAA tournament. Donovan Dent, if he has a big game, they could beat Marquette. New Mexico is another one of those high-level picks to potentially be an upset. So that's kind of how I see the first round in terms of the South region. I particularly like Auburn and Michigan State. Again, I'm going to take a deeper dive into this later tonight when I fill out my bracket, but that's how I see the South region. We're going to get through the East region, and then we'll do this again later on in the show to help you fill out your bracket. So you got to stay tuned to later in the show for more bracket details. We talked about Cooper Flagg and Duke. They're paired up in the East. That's on the same side as the South. That's Auburn. So Duke, the number 1 seed. The latest we got on Cooper Flagg is he's the projected number 1 pick in June's NBA draft, National Player of the Year favorite. Hasn't played since spraining his ankle in the first half of Duke's ACC tournament quarterfinal and their win over Georgia Tech. But Blue Devils head coach John Scherer told ESPN that Flagg is full steam ahead for a return in Friday's first round matchup. So although the Blue Devils won the ACC tournament without him, Flagg's availability will be vital, obviously, to their pursuit for a national championship, which they haven't won since 2015. So I think a lot of it will be seen in that first game, but for Duke, Cooper Flagg is a big X factor. I mean, Duke's good enough to win the whole thing, and Cooper Flagg's the best player. And so picking the best team with the best player is usually a recipe for success. I got Duke definitely in the Final Four. I probably have them in the national championship game. And to me, I think it's going to be Duke and Florida in the national championship. But I like Duke to run through the East region. I mean, American and St. Mary's, don't even worry about that in the first game. Mississippi State, Baylor, I think is going to be a good game. I like Mississippi State in this one. Baylor has not been very good this year. I've watched a lot of Big 12 basketball. They haven't even come close to being the Baylor that they've been in the past. Big 12 was a little down this year in comparison to what they're usually at. Yes, Baylor has some good wins. The SEC and Mississippi State have done a lot better, and they could cause a lot of problems potentially for Duke in the next round. But I still think Duke's probably the pick out of this region. Oregon and Liberty, Dana Altman, he is like but Jay Bill's compared him to the West Coast version of Tom Izzo. And I just mentioned Tom Izzo is March. Oregon's not losing to Liberty. I mean, they're going to win in the first round of the tournament. They're not going to lose to the 12 seed Liberty. I don't like that as a potential upset. Arizona versus Akron. I think Akron can give Arizona a little run for their money. Arizona does, play with their food a little bit. But Caleb Love, the transfer from Duke, from North Carolina, former Tar Heel, big time player. He's very streaky though, so I wouldn't pick Arizona to go much further than the first couple of rounds of the Sweet 16. But, a little moderate choice potentially for an upset. But I like Arizona, and I like Arizona against Oregon as well. BYU is kind of a sleeper team for me. I think the BYU VCU game is going to be electric. Richie Saunders of BYU, shooter who has 74 three-pointers on the season, shooting at a 43% clip. Plus, and here's the point that I saw this on an article from Jay Billis, Richie Saunders' grandfather invented the tater tot. So, maybe if you're a big tots person, this is what's the fun part about filling out your bracket, finding different ways to fill out the bracket. I've already seen a bunch of brackets where it's like, this is what the tournament would look like if the tournament was decided based on which school was closer to an Arby's. That's a bracket for somebody. If you like tater tots, maybe you support BYU against VCU. I think this is going to be a great game, high potential for an upset. Wisconsin over Montana, I like. I think St. Mary's and Vanderbilt's a coin flip game. St. Mary's, a machine. I've seen them in person. I think they could get through Vanderbilt, who has played a tough schedule. And then Alabama, I would expect to handle Robert Morris. I like Alabama going through the bottom half of that bracket until they get to maybe BYU. I think BYU may be able to get them on the upper side. I like Duke winning it all the way to the Elite Eight, and I like Duke representing the East in the Final Four. We'll talk about the other two regions later on, but when we come back, let's get you some upsets and some upsets that might help you win your bracket. I'll tell you who to pick when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to get Ryan James on from the San Diego Legion. Local kid playing rugby in his second year with the Legion. Got to play against the New Zealand All Blacks when he was part of Team USA a little bit ago. We'll talk a lot about that and some other news with Ryan James and the Legion, who got a game coming up over the weekend at USD. That's coming up in just a little bit. But we do want to try to help you with some upset picks in your bracket. We already broke down the South and the East in terms of just some plays that you can make to fill out your NCAA tournament bracket. We will talk about the West and the Midwest later on in the 1 o'clock hour to help you out with that. So you're going to have to stay tuned to finish out the rest of your bracket if you do need some help. Here's some upsets to help you out in the first round and some of the best ones that you could potentially pick. Some of these I've already talked about in terms of upset chances, and a lot of them are they're all double-digit upsets, right? So, 9 over an 8's not really an upset, right? It's more of a coin flip game anyway. So some of the ones that I threw out there that I liked, Yale. I like Yale and Texas A&M. I mean, it doesn't have the best chances at 22%, but Yale was in the exact same shoes they were last year. 13 seed against an SEC foe in the first round, and just asked the number 1 seed in the tournament and their head coach, Bruce Pearl, how that one went. So, I mean, they knocked off Auburn last year in the first round. They got a very strong backcourt. They got the Ivy League Player of the Year and the conference's 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in Bez Mibang. He's paired with big-time shot maker and John Polakidis. Aggie's best offense is their record. Aggie's best offense is their second shot. They grab a ridiculous 42% of their own misses. So Yale will have to hold their own in that regard in terms of the board. So if Yale can rebound on the defensive end, they should be able to beat Texas A&M. Kind of a low chance, but I do like that one a little bit better than others. I don't really like Liberty over Oregon too much. They list that as 24%. Both teams have smaller backcourts, and Model gives the Flames a little bit of a chance because of how well they shoot. They're 58% on 2-pointers as a team, while averaging 10.6 3-pointers per game on 39% shooting from deep. But they'll have to find an answer for a 7-footer in Nate Biddle, who has arguably been playing the best ball of his 4-year career over the past month. I like Oregon in that game. I wouldn't pick Liberty as an upset. Drake and Missouri. Now, we haven't talked about this side of the bracket yet, but Drake, they've been pretty good this entire season. They list the upset chance ESPN does on the metrics at 27%. What makes this interesting is the level of the styles of play. Drake wants to limit possessions and play hellacious defense. He's given up 60 or fewer points in half of its games, while Missouri has scored more than 80 points in 25 of its 33 games. I do like Drake a little bit against Missouri, even though Missouri comes from the ever-powerful SEC this season. But Bulldogs have the knock on the Bulldogs, though, and maybe it's a knock for UCSD. I don't really know. The lack of experience in terms of Division I NCAA tournament. Bulldogs have 4 transfers who came from a D2 school and followed their coach to Drake. And that group includes their point guard and Bennett Sturtz, who almost never comes off the court and also loads up the stat sheet. The next one on the list, as we get higher and higher in terms of probability for upset UCSD over Michigan, I already said why I like that one. Xavier in Illinois, that's if Xavier wins tonight, is a decent chance at 39%. Texas has a little bit better chance of beating Illinois than Xavier does. So if you want to go that route with the first 4, one of the first 4 teams is going to win one of these games. I mean, they do it all the time. So take a look at that. I also like the Mountain West matchup against the AAC champion in Memphis and Colorado State. Colorado State's coming in red hot. They've won 10 straight games and stole a bid. And although Memphis is not really wilting into the big dance with only 1 loss the past 2 months, it is surprising to see the Tigers get such a high seed. So Colorado State is a sneaky pick in this one too. And we've seen Colorado State up close. And then the number 1 upset that you could pick, if you want to go with red hot North Carolina, metrics say North Carolina against Ole Miss is a very favorable matchup for the Tar Heels. So another potential double-digit upset that you could potentially find. Most of them are 12s and 11 seeds. Not a lot of higher than that. The highest one is Yale at 13 seed. Don't expect to have too many 14 seeds make a run. The only one I would say is High Point might give Purdue a run for their money. That's the upsets. Later on in the show, we'll get you a look at the Midwest and West region of the bracket to help fill your bracket out. But coming up next, Ryan James, the winger for the San Diego Legion. Legion undefeated, last undefeated team in Major League Rugby. They got a big game coming up this weekend. He will join me next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 12:34 on a Wednesday. March Madness starts tomorrow officially, well, with all the big games in round one of the NCAA tournament. We got more games this afternoon and this evening in the first four competition as Mount St. Mary's takes on American University and Texas plays Xavier. Should be a fun couple of nights, the next couple of nights, obviously with the games today at 3:40 and 6:10. And then we will have everybody in action, or half the bracket in action tomorrow, with some games coming up on throughout the CBS networks. A lot of good games tomorrow. Michigan and UCSD will be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Day starts off with Louisville and Creighton at 9:15 in the morning. That will be the first game of March Madness coming up tomorrow to get things started. But right now on the Braden Surprenant Show, we are going to be going out to the phone as we get to catch up with one of the players of the San Diego Legion. He is a local kid that went to Cathedral Catholic High School. He has gone on and done some great things in rugby and now representing his city for the second year this season, doing a really good job. Team is 4-0, only undefeated team in Major League Rugby, and they play a game on Saturday against Miami at 7 o'clock at USD. My guest joining us next is Ryan James, a fellow Don. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Not much. I'm doing all right. Today's our day off.
Well, it's good to have a day off when you're an athlete. Obviously, it's probably a lot more on your body than back when you were playing a lot in your high school days. But talk to us a little bit about how the season's going, how you're feeling, and what you're expecting for the game on Saturday.
Yeah. Obviously, off to a pretty good start, 4-0, coming off the bye week. We're just really excited about this season. We've got new head coach, new assistant coaches in place, a lot of new young faces in the squad. So just really excited to continue this progress.
By Ryan James, who is a member of the San Diego Legion, a San Diego kid, grew up. And obviously, I know we've had you on before, but, to tell a lot of people, how does a kid from San Diego end up playing rugby and obviously, playing at a very high level? What was the youth experience like for you growing up playing sports? When did you get into rugby, and how did that help your other sports out as well that you played?
Right. So growing up, I kind of played everything under the sun. I did karate, did soccer, baseball, football, swim. But when I was 12 years old, one of my football coaches decided that he wanted to start a rugby team in Mira Mesa. So that was my first experience of rugby. And then I was really fortunate. By the time I was 15, I got to start traveling. Traveled to France for my first time. And that's when my eyes really opened to all the possibilities that rugby provides. And now as a professional playing in San Diego, it's really special being able to coach kids who are younger than me when I first started. So give them the best chance to make it as far as they'd like with rugby.
Now, Ryan, you're only a couple of years, behind me at Cathedral, and I remember when I was there, they finally got rugby, for the high school team, and I know you probably played club and maybe a little bit for them as well. But how was it for you in playing multiple sports in high school, and how cool of an opportunity was it that Cathedral had rugby when not a lot of high schools had it at the time?
Yeah, that's definitely a huge factor in my success with rugby. I think being able to play rugby in high school, I love to see that the sport is still growing and more high schools are adding it as a varsity sport or even just as a club. But for me personally, playing rugby and football throughout high school, I think really developed me well as an athlete.
You talked about a little bit of, coaching and being able to coach. I know, the Legion definitely encourages that. And, I know you've been coaching rugby and you coached football last year. How's been the difference between, coaching the different sports, relatively around the same time that have, slightly different techniques, and what were some of the similarities that you have in obviously two sports that are very similar?
Yeah, the sports are pretty similar in that they're both contact sports. And I tell this to parents who ask all the time, but they sort of work hand in hand. If you're getting better at rugby, you're going to be better the next time football season comes around, and vice versa. But some of the tackle technique in rugby, I think, can translate over to make a football player who's good take the next step.
Talking with Ryan James, who plays for the San Diego Legion, a local product out of Cathedral Catholic High School. And, after Cathedral, you're, part of a really good football team in 2016 that won a state championship. And I'll ask you about that in just a little bit. But, you've gotten on. And at what point, maybe in high school or maybe just after, did you think, I could do this professionally?
Yeah, so that would have been my sophomore year. 2015, I was 15 years old when I got to travel internationally the first time. And I kind of was just doing the math in my head, and I was like, out of all the kids in the U.S., I've been selected and given this great opportunity to represent the U.S. at the under 18s level. If I was able to keep it up, I could possibly do this as an adult, possibly do this as a career. But the MLR wasn't around back in 2015. So I was just playing for the fun of it, but fortunately I stuck with it, and the league has grown since then, and we are where we are today.
And you're in a spot now. I mean, this is your third team. It's good to be back in San Diego, but spent a little bit of time for the Colorado Raptors. You played up in LA as well, and you got to play and represent the United States, and you've been able to do that. A little bit. I mean, obviously the one time you played, you had to play against a very, very impressive New Zealand team. What was it like representing your country, even though I know the result wasn't probably the one that you guys wanted, but what was that experience like? Did you ever think you could be representing your country at any point in time in your life?
Yeah, it's a pretty big goal to have set. And I'm very glad that I was able to make it for that first cap. But it's a pretty indescribable feeling being able to represent your country, especially against what many would consider the best team in the world. And especially for me, with family from New Zealand, still living in New Zealand, it was a really special moment.
Ryan James, our guest on the Braden Surprenant show, to get you ready for a Major League Rugby game coming up on Saturday as the Legion play Miami. USD will actually play before at 4 o'clock, before the game at 7 o'clock. For a lot of families out there that might have kids that might be interested in rugby, what's it like at some of these games, and what's the process like of finding some different leagues for them to play in? As I know that you guys are very much involved with the youth here in San Diego, as a lot of you guys on the team coach a lot of different teams.
Right. So on Saturday, there's going to be a lot going on. There are clinics for the kids before the match, so you can come out, bring your kids. They'll be coached by professional rugby athletes. And then there's tons of music, live entertainment sometimes. And then you can watch the college rugby beforehand and then watch a professional match at 7 p.m. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Last question for you, Ryan, just because I got to watch you play a little bit in high school. When you're on that state championship team, a lot of great players on that team, a lot of great, obviously kids that are now young adults like yourself. What was one of your special memories of that team, and how did playing for Cathedral help you develop into the athlete that you are today?
Let's see. You're talking about the football?
Yeah, football and rugby. You can do both.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of memories. Really fun from high school, especially Cathedral Catholic has always had a big focus on athletics. So really grateful to just be a part of that legacy that Cathedral has for the two sports. Yeah, really fortunate, and it's really good to see friends every now and then at our home matches. To feel their support and catch up with them every now and then is always a pleasure.
Ryan, we appreciate the time. Good luck coming up on Saturday, and keep doing the good or keep doing a good job. Leading the team in tries, and way to represent City of San Diego. It's always great to have a local product on our local teams.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
That's Ryan James joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show. Very nice guy that I've been fortunate enough to talk with a handful of times throughout the years. A really good rugby player, and he was part of a really good high school football team here in town that I would watch when I came back from college. But really cool for Ryan James to be able to play in his hometown. Love that for all the local products that we have here, playing at the local colleges, playing for the local teams, and obviously playing at the local level, at the professional level as well. And we had one of those local guys on yesterday on Gwen and Chris, and Connor Joe went to Poway High School and, was able to, play in the big, go to USD and play baseball at USD. And then go on and have a professional career. He went through a lot, to get to this point, where he had cancer, and then he won his battle with cancer, and now a member of the San Diego Padres. Really good interview yesterday, with Gwen and Chris, as he tries to make this team with another San Diego product already on the team, and Joe Musgrove, and obviously with Tirso Ornelas growing up in Tijuana. Always great to see the local products out here representing the city and representing the city of San Diego on the professional teams, which is really cool to see. Here's Connor Joe yesterday, as mentioned, the local kid from Poway High School, went on to play at USD, and now a member of the San Diego Padres, joining Gwen and Chris.
Oh, man. You know what? It's kind of when I was going through cancer, and I did lose my hair the second round of chemo. As it grew back, it was like, I don't know if people know, but like when you go through chemo, as it grows back, it's like super curly. And my hair right now is super straight. It's always been straight my whole life. So like, as it grew back curly, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, maybe just let it grow. And I signed with the Rockies, and there's like 1,000 mullets over there, started by Charlie Blackman.
Right.
So I was
Oh,
like,
yes.
So I was like, I kind of fit in here. So kind of just kept on letting it grow. As I cut it, it straightened out, and I kind of just wear it as a badge of honor, right? Like, it's kind of like,
That's great.
I lost all my hair. I went through cancer, and now, like, as it's growing back, it's like I just wear it as kind of a badge of honor,
awesome.
which is kind of cool. I probably should take a little bit better care of it, other than just rinsing water through it and putting some pomade. But I love it. Yeah, it's me.
That's super cool. And I mean, we had Connor Joe on before, and he's a great guest, a great kid from Poway, obviously, and a lot of locals are rooting for him. And he came from the Pirates. He was with the Pirates last year, and played with Paul Skeens, and he talked about that Rookie of the Year kind of battle between Paul Skeens and Jackson Merrill with the boys yesterday afternoon, and also saying like what a nice guy Paul Skeens is.
No, that was a really fun race to watch. Those two guys doing their thing, and Paul's an ultimate pro. And as I get to know Jackson,
that's a rookie too, by the way.
Well.
He said, he's an ultimate pro. That's
Right.
That's
really
a huge compliment.
Man. Yeah. But as I get to know Jackson, like he's the same way, and he carries himself the same way, and he works like a pro. But Paul's great. Like, what you see on the field is what you get, and then away from the field, he's true professional. I mean, he's got the military background in his family, so like he knows how to carry himself. He's respectful of others, but he also knows how to like contribute to the clubhouse, and he's not just like shut off to himself and to himself. Like, he's got so much attention and so much publicity throughout the whole year, and he really knew how to handle that and not let that divert him from his work on the field. I'm a big fan of Paul. I got to know him really well, and really impressed with what he did. Obviously, seeing Jackson, on the highlights, it's like, man, he definitely was the Rookie of the Year as a offensive player. It just was unfortunate that he matched up with Paul in the same year.
That's half the battle sometimes. Is not is the league that you're in, and the time you come up, and make your rookie year. So that's the unfortunate thing for Jackson Merrill, that deal. But it's cool that he's about that, and Paul Skeen seems like a good dude, and we'll see what that transpires. Adam, I don't know if you could pull it up, but we went through our "Are You Good" segment in the 10:45 spot of the show. But, decent transition right now with Paul Skeens. And I have the clip from the Pirates. But, I can't believe the Pirates posted this. It's hilarious to me. They had this whole video about, announcing Paul Skeens as their opening day starter. Like it wasn't a foregone conclusion that he was going to be the opening day starter. It's like it's pinned to their Twitter page now. But, Paul Skeens, one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, won the Rookie of the Year last year. The guy had a great career at LSU, started his career at Air Force when he was a two-way guy, and was a force there before he ended up going to LSU and winning a national championship. And then, of course, being the number one pick in the draft and winning the Rookie of the Year last year. Connor Joe, of course, mentioning how great of a guy he is, which is great. It's always great to hear that. I mean, when guys have success, to be able to be good people too. But here's like this candid camera video of telling Paul Skeens he's the opening day starter for the Pirates.
How you doing? How's your bullpen? It was good. Everything felt good? Yeah. How's your body? Good. Really good. No worries.
This is him talking to his manager, Derek Shelton,
correct,
in his office, seemingly as they do like when they call somebody up to the majors.
No, like barely even sore after the last outing. Really? Yeah. I'm moving well. Moving well? Yeah. I wasn't expecting to be like super sore, but like kind of abnormally not sore. Good. Yeah. Good. You watching this? A little bit. Bubba's last pitch at 100. Punch out, fastball down and away. Love that. What's Barco at right now? It's been 95, slider's been like 86. So it's hard to believe a year ago. Yeah. This was you pitching this, huh? Yeah. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind. A little bit. All right. But you get your first opening day start. Wow. Oh, congrats, brother. Appreciate it. There you go. Pretty cool. Sweet. You ready? Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
What? What a waste. That seemed almost like it was staged. I mean, Skeens is like, yeah, man, I'm ready to go. Didn't like unfazed by the moment. I mean, I wonder if the Pirates thought it was going to be a bigger deal. I mean, that's something that's as Adam said, it's set up like Shelton's is going to tell him that he's getting pulled up to the majors. He's already there. I mean, it's like a foregone conclusion. I can't wait for the video the Padres put out where Mike Schilt is in there with Fernando. They tell Fernando he made the 26-man roster. Hey, man, I just want to tell you he made the team. All right, sweet. Yeah, cool. I mean, it's like, what? That's like telling, oh, man, that's like telling like Scotty Scheffler you're going to be on the Ryder Cup team for Team USA.
Hey, Shohei, I know you were unanimous MVP last year. You're going to be our opening day DH.
That's right. We're going to have you bat leadoff.
Welcome to the starting lineup.
We're going to have you bat leadoff in Japan. Sick, dude. Like, really? I mean, come on, Pirates. That's the best we got? It's so forced. Who else? That would have been hilarious if Skeens responded with like, well, yeah, who else are you going to have pitch? Come on, man. I'm Paul Skeens. That's an insane video. What are you doing? Are you good? Pittsburgh Pirates, are you guys good? What a waste. Come on. The social media thing. Well, Dodgers are already 2-0. Padres are a game out of first place before the season even starts. I already said earlier it's not really that big of a deal. In fact, I think it's better this way because now I think a lot of people should just focus on the Padres and not have to worry about the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, who cares what the Dodgers are doing? Who cares what they're doing? There's no need to pay attention to them. Unless we get to mid-September and the Padres are within 5 games of the division, and really less than that. You got to be like 2 or 3 games within the division. Don't even think about the division. There's no reason to think about it. You only have to get them in a 5-game series. And even though they looked really good in the last couple of days, and they beat the Cubs, the good news is they beat the Cubs. I mean, the Padres need to be more worried about the Cubs than they need to be worried about the Dodgers. I mean, who cares what the Dodgers are doing? Can the Padres get the Dodgers in the playoffs? They came up with 6 teams in Major League Baseball that have the firepower to knock down LA. Are the Padres one of those teams? We'll tell you when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. Getting into the final hour on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 1 o'clock, final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm waiting for somebody in the chat to say it. I usually get somebody to say it. People join in at the same time every day for one particular thing at 1 o'clock. What is that one particular thing? Well, that, of course, would be the biggest fan. Need to announce today's biggest fan on 97.3 The Fan here at 1 o'clock. It's time for it. And today's biggest fan, if I pull up the read, right? And now there's a loading issue because that's where we're at. Today's biggest fan, and we had an opportunity to win tickets to our suites. There it is. Congratulations, today's biggest fan. That would be Jonathan Barajas in Chula Vista. Jonathan Barajas from Chula Vista. Give us a call back within the next 10 minutes at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, and you'll qualify for our grand prize. 20 tickets for you and your friends for a night in our Odyssey suite at a Padres game later this season. Remember to register your name at 973thefansd.com/biggest-fan. Jonathan Barajas from Chula Vista, you are today's biggest fan. Give us a call. You got to about 111, and you can qualify yourself for our grand prize. This is the last week of the biggest fan, if I'm not mistaken. So only 2 more days, 2 more opportunities to win tomorrow on this show, tomorrow and Friday, which means there are only 7 more chances to win total on the fan. Jonathan Barajas, you're today's biggest fan. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's go out to our boy Mitch in New Jersey. He wants to weigh in today. Mitch, what's going on? How's your Wednesday going?
How you doing, Brandon? Thanks for taking my call. I got Duke winning it all. I mean, Cooper Flair, let him go out with a championship. I'm not a Duke fan at all, you know. It's quite not the West Coast. But the guy, you got to love that last name. That MASH episode, Flag. Cooper Flag, first pick. Quite a few teams that are tanking on privates. I bet you winds up with San Antonio. Major League Baseball has no cap, so I don't think any owner has no excuse for not spending money. And I hope we don't start with too many guys on the injury list, especially Yu Darvish. So I guess it's too early to start looking for a trade. And do you think anybody from Pharmacists can make the club, maybe make some noise, be a pleasant surprise? Possible rookie of the year? I know we got Chip last year.
Well, Mitch, I appreciate the phone call. I don't necessarily know, and I'll answer some of your questions. I mean, obviously, Duke is probably the favorite in this tournament. Honestly, Cooper Flag is the best player in college basketball right now. He's a little banged up. I think them and Florida have a really good chance for winning a national championship. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Florida and Duke in the national championship, a couple of 1 seeds. And we're going to break down the West and the Midwest in our next segment before we get to Kyle Glaser to finish up the show. And Duke's with Cooper Flag, I think has a good chance of making a run. Now, in terms of the Padres, Mitch asking about potential guys coming up and being an impact from the farm system. I think your best bet right now would be a guy like Tirso Ornelas, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, they were throwing around the idea of Leo DeVries potentially being up at the end of the season. That'd be at the earliest. That's what the reports were from Dennis Linick last week. Maybe next year. It's not totally crazy, I guess, as he gets closer to 18, 19 years old for him to make his debut. But I don't know if it's enough for this year to be. I don't think the Padres have any Rookie of the Year candidates on their team. I really don't. And maybe they do. Maybe a guy emerges. At least last year, even though I said last year a couple of times to just be easy with Jackson Merrill coming up because, so many times that the Padres had pulled up guys that were going to be the the future of the franchise and the change of the franchise. And, they would struggle a little bit because it's a very difficult job to do, especially at the age that they're pulling guys up at. So just don't evaluate the first couple months of Jackson Merrill's ability as like he's not going to be able to get the job done if he fails. And then he not even close. I mean, he just ripped through the entire season and never really had a down part of the year to ultimately probably winning a Rookie of the Year. Probably should have. Comes up at a different time, comes up in a different leagues. Paul Skeens, comes up the year before or the year after, and Jackson Merrill's the Rookie of the Year winner. But in terms of like last year, at least you knew that he was one of the top prospects that was knocking on the door and had a chance to start the season. I mean, the Padres don't really have those guys right now ready to play. Tirso Ornelas is not one of the top prospects in the organization. Right? So, I mean, unless he makes the team out of the gate, and I don't think he will. I mean, there's a lot of love for Yuli Gurriel right now, and he's hit the ball well the last couple of outings that he has had. We talked about the roster decisions that the Padres have to make coming up. And based on what the latest report was from Kevin Acee, I mean, there were some head scratchers in there a little bit, but I understand where they're coming from in terms of veterans and everything like that. And then players with options to help fill out the roster. You can keep more players that way. But odd man out in that deal is there's a decent amount of players that are the odd man out in that particular roster breakdown, but one of them being Tirso Ornelas, and I think he would be the only guy that really has a chance to win a Rookie of the Year that's coming from the farm system. And I don't think he's that caliber of player. I think he'd help the Padres though. I think your best chance of a future Rookie of the Year player in the next couple of years is DeVries or Salas. And it sounds like DeVries might be closer to coming up than Salas is. And now Salas, the thing with Salas is that he has to learn how to be a major league catcher. And he's good defensively, but he's got to learn all the pitchers. It's more work for him for his position than a DeVries as a shortstop who's an athlete, who they might be able to put other places. But it sounds like DeVries is going to be their go-to everyday shortstop. It sounds like they project him to potentially be a 20-homer guy. So it's interesting to me how that's going to play. The DeVries conversation, I think, is more interesting to me than the Ethan Salas conversation. Because they talked about his mental makeup, and there's, AJ Castle had an article on him, and so did Dennis Lynn, about what he brings to the table from a mental side, how he's wise above his years, how much of a spark he brings to the team, that he did down in Lake Elsinore. And he could theoretically be a spark this season if they brought him up at the end of the year. That would be, again, as stated in those articles that were written last week, that would be the earliest that he would come up, would be the end of this year. Be very interesting to see. I mean, could you imagine Leo DeVries in September starting a game at shortstop for the Padres? That would be insane to me. I mean, what that kid would be able to accomplish in that part of his life. I mean, he's what is he, 18? Is he even 18 yet? I mean, he's 18 years old. He will be 19 in October. I mean, 18-year-olds right now, they're like thinking about graduating high school. This kid has the opportunity to potentially get pulled up at the end of the season. At the earliest. Padres staying aggressive with some of their top prospects in terms of trying to get them up to the big leagues as quickly as possible. That's a fascinating conversation that might take place later on in the year if he goes out there and does really well. But I would expect DeVries probably comes up before Salas. I was thinking next year, maybe the year after that. I mean, but after that article of potentially into the season and then into next year, it's these guys might be here sooner than you think. And a lot of it has to do with balancing out the contracts of some of the veteran guys that they have under contract. Dodgers already 2-0 in the season. I talked about it earlier, why that shouldn't matter to anybody. And, it should just give us an excuse to not have to talk about them anymore because we know they're going to be good. You're going to have to deal with them in the playoffs, so anything else against them, it doesn't really matter. There are potential 6 teams, according to ESPN, that could knock off the Los Angeles Dodgers. Jeff Passan was given the list of the 6, and he ruled whether or not these 6 particular teams could beat LA. We have 6. This is what ESPN put together. We have 6 of our MLB experts to each pick one team they think is best suited to take down the Dodgers in October when it counts the most. So again, in a 5-game series or a 7-game series. While none of our experts necessarily think this team will be better than the Dodgers over the course of 162, I don't think anybody will think that. That's why, again, they're already off to a one-game lead in the division. Forget it. Who cares what they do? You got to beat them in October. They made their best cases for their club, having the right formula to knock LA out. And surprisingly, nobody on their panel chose either New York team. Here are the 6 teams that can take down the Dodgers. The Arizona Diamondbacks, the Atlanta Braves, according to ESPN, the Baltimore Orioles, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Boston Red Sox, and the San Diego Padres. What kind of case could be made for the Padres to knock off the Dodgers? What did Jeff Passan say? Does he say they have a chance? We'll talk about it next on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 117 on a Wednesday. One more day until first round of the NCAA tournament. There's a couple of games tonight, obviously, with the first four. Xavier is playing Texas on the nightcap, and the first game today is American University and Mount St. Mary's. That game will be underway at 3:40 p.m. Pacific time on True TV. Xavier in Texas will be at 6:10 p.m. Pacific time on True TV as the backup. I want to make sure that that information is out there. Again, get your brackets in before tomorrow morning. Anybody that's competing in Scraby's bracket deal, I'll be in my own bracket deals as well. I'll get those done hopefully tonight, if not early tomorrow morning. But those are all due before Louisville and Creighton tip off at 9-something in the morning. That'll be the first game of the day, and then it'll be nonstop college basketball the rest of the weekend. So we were talking about the 6 teams that ESPN put together that can knock off the Dodgers. And ESPN's experts put together a case for each team. And then Jeff Passan, the MLB guru himself on ESPN, judged whether or not it was enough for those teams to potentially knock off the Dodgers. And so we'll talk about the Padres for a second. Now, they made their case, and, you know, it's a lot of the same talking points that we've done in the past. I mean, they mentioned that nobody came closer to beating them last year than the Padres, right? And then if it wasn't for, you know, maybe a couple of plays here and there, it could have been the Padres hoisting the trophy. And, you know, after a winter of trade rumors, Luis Ariz is still on the team, Dylan Cease, Robert Suarez, they added Nick Pivetta. The thing where they lost their case, I think, is they're no worse than they were last year. I mean, theoretically, you know, the Padres get better? Probably not. They are probably a little bit worse. I mean, it's you don't have Jurickson Profar in left field. Instead, you have Jason Hayward or in a platoon. You know, you got worse in left field as of right now. And maybe it changes. I mean, maybe AJ Preller finds lightning in a bottle again. But you have a platoon in left field. You know, you picked up some good marginal players, right, with guys like Jose Iglesias, and maybe Gavin Sheets could be a nice little addition, but your catching situation got worse. I mean, Elias Diaz only had like one at-bat in the playoffs last year. Kyle Higashioka was coming in to be a backup, ended up being the starter. He's now in Texas. And Luis Camposano, who is one of the top, you know, players in the farm system a couple of years ago for, you know, years, has still yet to really hit that mark with the Padres, and he wasn't even on the playoff roster last year. And then you got Martin Maldonado, maybe. I mean, those are your catching up. Your catching situation is worse than it was last year. So in left field and catcher, and with Joe Musgrove, you know, we're having to recover from Tommy John, rotation is not much. I mean, they're maybe around the same, if not a little worse. And then the bullpen losing Tanner Scott, it's not great. And then you lost Hassan Kim. So I don't know how much better the team is, but the main argument that they said was San Diego is no worse this year. I'd have to disagree with that. And Jeff Passan, you know, went out and said that's a terrible argument to have. Now, I will say the thing that should have been the biggest argument for these experts would be my argument for the Padres and why they could take down the Dodgers. Padres play them more than anybody else, right, with the rest of the division. So the San Diego Padres play the Dodgers 13 times a year, which was a lot more before. Now with the new schedule, it's 13 times a year. I think that plays a factor when you know somebody's so close. I think that's a major plus for the Padres why they could beat the Dodgers. I don't think they're really fazed by the logo and everything anymore. They used to not admit it, but those early couple of teams that the Padres had, I mean, they played like a totally different team against LA. Last year they didn't. Last year they went toe-to-toe with those guys the entire season. So they're not unfazed by they're not fazed by the moment. So, I mean, point number 2 would be they're not intimidated by Los Angeles as maybe they would have been in the past. And to me, number 3, and it might even be the biggest argument you can have about why the Padres have the best case for being one of the 6 teams to knock off the Los Angeles Dodgers, is the health factor of their stars coming back. We talked about Manny yesterday and how he's feeling. I mean, he went through 3 years of having some type of injury, and he still put up 30 homers a year. And he still put up impressive numbers. In fact, the year he was the most hurt, he made an all-star game and had a 6 WAR. And now he's fully healthy. Fernando's missed a significant amount of time the last couple of years. And last year, the guy had a problem with his femur. He's coming into camp healthy. He's coming into the season healthy. Xander Bogaerts had the wrist issue in the first year, still had a 4.4 WAR in his first year in a Padres uniform. I don't know why people forget about that. Hit over 270 on that season. I mean, 4.4 WAR is a top 5 WAR season for Xander Bogaerts, but we complain like the guys that bringing down the franchise. He had injuries in his first year. He missed a significant amount of time last year with an injury. He is healthy and ready to go. Luis Ariz last year, who was acquired from the Marlins, had an injury issue. He still hit for a high average. It wasn't as high as it usually is, but he wasn't healthy. So even though you lost Kyle Higashioka and Jurickson Profar and Tanner Scott and Hassan Kim, and you brought in fringe players or those aging veterans like a Jason Hayward and a Jose Iglesias, and you brought in some question marks and some risks with guys like Gavin Sheets. You know, we got Connor Joe, some veteran players. Those guys being healthy, to me, is the biggest case for why the Padres could be one of those teams that could knock off the Dodgers, because I think a lot of people are underestimating just how valuable those guys were and why they got the contracts that they got. I don't think they played poorly the last couple of years, and some of them didn't even play that poorly because of their age. I think a lot of people are so terrified of those contracts being terrible. But they're all healthy now, so now there's no excuse. But I think those 4 particular players being healthy, which also so happen to be 4 of your top 5 guys in the batting order, for the top 6 maybe, depending where Xander bats, I think that's the best case for why the Padres can knock off the Dodgers compared to the other teams in baseball. And Jeff Passan points out the biggest case for him would have been like the emotional game. I think that's a part of it. I think that's a factor. I think, the Dodgers play a little bit tighter now when they play against the Padres. I think that emotional sense between the two organizations, between the two fan bases, between the two teams, I think plays a factor that helps the Padres more so than, them getting juiced up to play the Phillies or somebody in the American League like the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles probably can, like, talent-wise, maybe with the young guys, but that energy and passion that you get in this rivalry is a different level, and I think that's an asset for the Padres in being one of those teams. We got a little bit of time. I do want to finish out filling out your bracket. We talked about the Midwest, and the West was being up next on deck. Let's talk about the Midwest real quick. Houston has not made it out of the Sweet 16 in the last couple of years. I think that changes this year. They're the number 1 seed in the Midwest region. I think they might finally get over the hump. I don't know how San Diego State beat this team. Maybe that's a cause for concern about picking Houston, but they ran through the Big 12 and had a great year. Obviously picked them in the first round. I think the best matchup of somebody to knock them off is probably Gonzaga, Georgia in the next round. More sore towards Gonzaga. Again, coin flip game in that particular game. So don't be too upset if you don't get that one right. The 8-9s are hard to pick. I like Gonzaga in that one. Clemson and McNeese, kind of interesting. The head coach for McNeese is a Clemson alum, so there's going to be a little bit of back and forth there, I'm sure. So Clemson and McNeese dealing at it. Chase Hunter is the leading scorer for Clemson and is a steady, trustworthy player there. He's averaging 16.4 points per game, but a high potential for an upset. McNeese really forces turnovers and creates chaos. And when you got chaos in the NCAA tournament, that's a good way and a recipe for disaster. So if Clemson doesn't cough it up against the pressure, they should be able to cruise. But if they do, McNeese going to make that a ball game. Purdue and High Point. I like Purdue in this one. Braden Smith, spells his name right, is the best point guard in the country, averaging 8.7 assists per game. Tough, great passer, clutch performer. They don't have Zach Edey this year, but I don't think it's really going to matter. High Point beat a couple of teams in the tournament, UAB and American, but they haven't played anybody like Purdue this year. I could see them making it tight early, but I wouldn't imagine Purdue probably rolls over High Point. Illinois versus Texas or Xavier. That might be a nice matchup to try to have teams advance further that play in the first four. They think it's a high potential for an upset, especially if Texas wins. I don't know if I could do that or not, but Texas playing in the SEC, I think, goes a long way. Kentucky played really well this year as a 3 seed, but Troy apparently is one of those teams that might be able to get them a run for their money. I wouldn't really make that my upset pick in that particular case. Kentucky's been really good, and they've done really well under Mark Pope as the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats, and their offense is averaging 85.3 points per game. UCLA, Utah State. I think this is a high chance for an upset. UCLA should win because they got a better defense. But if there is an upset to pick, you might want to think about picking Utah State in this one. I'm curious to see how UCLA does after traveling all over the country for all their conference games. They're worn out at this point in the year. We'll see about that, but that's a pretty good game. I like Tennessee in this in against Wofford. I like Tennessee to come out of the bottom half of that bracket. And then, of course, I like them going against Houston. If I had to pick a 2 over a 1 to go to the Final Four, it'd probably be Tennessee. Zakai Ziegler is had a great season after a great last season. He's the Vols' best player, heart and soul of Rick Barnes' team. 13.5 points per game, 7.3 assists per game. They're good. Tennessee's a good basketball team. I mean, they're a team that lost to Florida by 20-plus points and then beat them by 20 points. And Florida is one of everybody's pick to win the national championship. To go to the West region, the final region to really talk about. This is the one this is the gauntlet. This is the one that's the most difficult to win with all of the great coaching involved and all the great teams. You got the Florida Gators, the number one seed in this particular region. They were the fourth number one seed, but they're red hot after winning the SEC tournament, and they're a pick to win the national championship, coming out of potentially as the toughest region. And if Florida's going to win the national championship, they're probably going to have to go through the 2-time reigning national champion in the UConn Huskies in the second round after UConn beats Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's a good team, but they went 6-12 in conference. So, and I know the conference is good, but I like UConn in that game. We talked about it earlier on the show about Colorado State potentially being an upset over Memphis. I do like that pick if you're looking for a 12 seed to beat a 5 seed. Maryland and Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's always been good, but I'm going to tell you right now, I watched Grand Canyon play in person this year. They are not the level of Grand Canyon's been in the last couple of years. So when you see Grand Canyon beat San Diego State at home a couple of years ago, and they always give teams a run for their money and everything like that, this is not the same Grand Canyon team. So I wouldn't really pick them to be an upset. Doesn't mean they won't, but I'm not using one of my upset picks in the first round on Grand Canyon. Missouri and Drake. I think Drake's got a good chance of upsetting Missouri, but Missouri is the favorite in that particular game. I'll probably take the Tigers in that one. Texas Tech sneaking in the bottom half of the bracket. They're a pretty good team with JT Toppin, only player who ranks among the top 3 in the Big 12 in scoring and rebounding, and not a better athlete in the tournament field than JT Toppin, the transfer from New Mexico. Very low chance that they get upset by UNC Wilmington. Kansas is not very good this year in terms of Kansas and the level that Kansas plays. They're going against Arkansas. You got the Bill Self and Coach Calipari game in the 7-10 matchup. And the winner of that's going to play Rick Pitino and St. John's. St. John's going to roll through Omaha. St. John's is a really good basketball team. Really good basketball team. And their best player is a Kansas transfer. So, and Zubi Ejiofor of St. John. So that potential matchup in the second round is good. But I think the Kansas-Arkansas game is going to be great. I like St. John's rolling through the bottom half. I think the only team that might be able to scare them is Texas Tech to get to the Elite 8. And then I like Florida coming out of there. So I'm probably going to go with 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds with Florida making it, Duke making it, Tennessee, the 2 seed making it, and Auburn making it. And then I like Duke and I like Florida in the national championship right now. And It's going to be tough between Florida and Duke. I'm going to go with Duke just because they got the best player on the best team. So that's how you fill out your bracket. I'm probably going to change it 18 different times before tomorrow morning, but that's a quick look through to help you fill your bracket out. We got to talk more about the Padres. Obviously, there's a lot of news going on with the rotation. Joining us next, Kyle Glaser to wrap up the show. We'll talk Padres baseball and what else is going on in Major League Baseball to finish up the Braden Surprenant show on a Wednesday, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Wrapping things up here on a Wednesday. Tomorrow's show will be fun. We'll have NCAA Tournament going on as we do our show. Keep you updated on everything in the NCAA Tournament. Keep an eye on your brackets. Make sure you get your brackets in before 9 tomorrow morning, as we got games early on. First game of the day tomorrow is Louisville and Creighton. Of course, UCSD plays at 7 o'clock tomorrow, so another San Diego team in the NCAA Tournament. A lot of Padres news to talk about, obviously, and to finish the show today and joining me on the Braden Surprenant show, talk a little bit more Padres, Kyle Glaser, who comes to us from Foul Territory. He's got a brand new podcast called Friar Territory, which he does, and talks a lot of Padres baseball. It's good to have the local product back in San Diego and talking Padres baseball, so we're going to do that with him right now and Kyle Glaser. Kyle, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Happy to be on with you.
So let's talk about some of the glaring things for the Padres right now. I mean, we'll start with some of the news that we got yesterday in terms of Yu Darvish. And Yu Darvish, having some issues with his elbow, and he was still able to play catch. Mike Schilt was a little bit optimistic about it, the fact that he was able to play catch. But if Yu Darvish cannot go, and we'll see what the latest is on him, where do you think the Padres turn when it comes to rotation help to start the season? Because that'd be kind of a tough blow to get 2025 started.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think starting with Darvish, you have to keep in mind this is not necessarily a new issue. He missed the end of the 2023 season with a right elbow sprain. And then last year, he obviously had a personal issue. He had a number of injuries as well, his neck, his groin, and right elbow inflammation. So this is now the third straight season his right elbow has bothered him to some degree. We always knew that it was unlikely, just at his age 38, that he was going to get 32 starts through the rotation. So with the Padres, there's always going to be a scenario where they had to go into their depth a little bit. Right now, I mean, look, Cease, King, and Pivetta are your 1, 2, 3. Realistically, with Matt Waldron suffering injury as well with an oblique strain, Kyle Hart and Randy Vasquez are the most natural fits, just because Hart pitched well as a starter last year in Korea, and Randy Vasquez, started games for the Padres last year, was better in the second half with an ERA in the low 4s. Those are really the only guys with starting experience. Stephen Kolek, as much as they talk about lengthening him out as a starter, has never started a game in the major leagues. He's exclusively a reliever last year. Did not pitch well yesterday, gave up 7 hits and 3 in the third inning. So I would expect it to be Hart and Vasquez now at the back of the rotation behind King, Cease, and Pivetta if Darvish does have to go on the IL.
We're talking with Kyle Glaser, the host of Friar Territory with Foul Territory. And Kyle, talking about the rotation a little bit more. I mean, Mike Schilt mentioned that, with part of that rotation battle that they had, and they had a lot more guys, battling for spots. Obviously, with the injury news to Darvish and Matt Waldron, going to miss some significant time at the beginning part of the season, he wanted to have the plan of some of the guys that didn't make the rotation go and be a long relief, because Brian Hoeing is also banged up to start the year, while also getting guys stretched out in AAA. You see a case where, they're able to fill all those spots now that there's a extra rotation spot open? Or do you think when you look at Kolek and Vasquez and Hart, all three of those guys are probably going to make the club to start the year?
Yeah, right now, I mean, especially with Hoeing on the IL, I think you do see a situation again where it's going to be Hart and Vasquez at the back of the rotation, and Kolek somewhere in the bullpen. Whether it's, they lengthen them out or not, we'll see. But this has been one of the biggest question marks for the Padres all offseason, was their pitching depth overall. Again, signing Pivetta and Hart helped a little bit, but even with them, there were really maybe 7 guys you felt comfortable with potentially starting games, and you're already down 2 of them. So really only having 5 guys with experience as starting pitchers in the major leagues and with any significant experience, it's not a great place to be. The Padres are a very thin organization right now in terms of there's not much coming up from the farm system to help anytime this year. Their best talent's all in the lower levels. This is a team that was going to be extraordinarily reliant on help, even more than other teams in major leagues. And the fact that they're potentially already down 2 starters before opening day, it's not great.
Yeah, not a great start to the season from the starting rotation standpoint. In terms of position players, Kyle, Kevin Acee put out a piece about some players that almost feel like shoo-ins to fit the team, with Jose Iglesias and Gavin Sheets, and even listed, Yuli Gurriel. There's a different, definitely a game being played with who's got options left and who doesn't. For the 5 bench pieces that the Padres would potentially have, 3 of them taken by the players I just mentioned, 1 by a backup catcher, that leaves 1 player left, or 1 spot left, for guys like Eggy Rosario, Tyler Wade, who don't have options, some young players that do have options. Oh, and a guy like Connor Joe, who is a veteran, but also has options. This is a very interesting development for the Padres as we get closer to opening day. But to really start it is the Yuli Gurriel conversation. How likely do you think it is that the Padres keep Yuli Gurriel on the roster? And if that's the case, what kind of intangibles does he bring at 40 years old?
Well, the biggest thing with him is he gives them a right-handed first base DH option, which if you looked at their first base DH options, Luis Arias, left-handed hitter, Gavin Sheets, with how he's performed, left-handed hitter. They signed Mike Rosso. They sent him down. So it really does kind of come down to Yuli Gurriel, gives him that right-handed option. Again, Connor Joe can also do it, but right now he looks like he should be the starting left fielder over Jason Hayward, to be perfectly frank. So, I mean, it's more about roster flexibility. Look, Yuli Gurriel has not produced offensively for the last 3 years. He was a great hitter in his prime, but he's 40 and he has slowed down considerably. He's had a good camp, but that's very different than surviving the grind of the regular season. So we'll see. I think realistically, you're just hoping that he can make consistent contact at this point in his career. Again, it has not been good the last 3 years. The Padres are hoping that it's a little more like the David Peralta, Donovan Solano signings than the Matt Carpenter, Nelson Cruz signings, but it's very possible that he's going to be more of the latter, just given his age and lack of productivity. We'll see what happens, but for them, it's more about balancing it out and finding a right-handed first base DH option to go with their current left-handed options.
Talking with Kyle Glaser, host of Friar Territory on Foul Territory, BBWAA member, a Hall of Fame voter as well. Kyle, when talking about, obviously the roster and what the Padres did this offseason, they had a lot of pieces go away in Hassan Kim, in Tanner Scott, in Jurickson Profar, in Kyle Higashioka, try to bring in some, members on the fringes to help alleviate some of the loss that they had from a good team last year that was arguably, as the Dodgers mentioned, one of the toughest teams that they played all season. A lot of their veteran guys that they have under contract for a long time, for the first time, have said that they're actually healthy going into the season, with Arise, Machado, Xander, and even Fernando Tatis Jr., who's still before his prime. My question to you is how much are the Padres going to have to rely on that health? And is it a big factor that all of those guys are starting to become healthy? Does that give them the improvements that they need to at least offset some of the losses they had last year?
Health is the single most important factor for this Padres team this season. And you can say that about every team. Health is a huge factor, but for the Padres especially so. They do not have guys in the upper minors they can pull up to plug holes in the event that some of their guys get hurt. You look at the Dodgers last year having Landon Knack and Andy Pages. This year the Dodgers have Dalton Rushing. The Diamondbacks have a Jordan Lawler. The other contenders in the NL West have everyday caliber players they can pull up. The Padres just do not have that. So really it comes down to if Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis and Luis Arias and really everyone stays healthy and stays off the IL and is able to give them 150 to 160 games, they have a chance to be a playoff team. If 2 or more of those guys go down with significant injuries, they don't have the depth to really survive it. So health is paramount for the Padres, even more so than any other team in baseball. And how healthy they stay will be the biggest single determinant of whether this is a playoff team or if this is a team that falls down close around 500.
We've been talking with a lot of people when it comes to this Padres team, and we always know that A.J. Preller might have something up his sleeve before the season starts. Obviously, with the confinements of their budget and everything else and what they have available to trade, since they do not want to part ways with Salas or DeVries, can the Padres make moves before the season starts? Do you have any hunch that they might make a move? But how do you see A.J. Preller navigating this year? Is it going to be more difficult than what he did last year?
It'll be more difficult in the sense they just have less pieces to trade. Going into the season last year, you had guys like Graham Pauley and Adam Mazur who you knew could come up and help the big league club. You had, guys like Robbie Snelling who were going to be in Double-A. Dylan Lesko was a top prospect. they had more pieces to trade and go get impactful players. They really don't have those guys this year unless they wanted to trade a Salas or a DeVries. It's going to be more, trading a mid-range prospect in a one-for-one deal for a Mitch Moreland type, which we've seen them do, a Brandon Drury type, which we've seen them do. That's kind of what they're limited to in terms of trades, unless they wanted to move one of their two big guys. We have seen this front office, again, do a good job finding some guys on the fringes. Let's not forget Jeremiah Estrada was a waiver claim. At this point last year was completely unproven. Now he's one of the best relievers in baseball. We talked about Donovan Solano on a minor league deal. David Peralta was a midseason pickup. And those guys all played really, really big roles for them. But it's really going to have to be about finding those guys on the waiver wire again, getting, a guy on a minor league deal to come up and play really well like we're seeing Gavin Sheets doing. There's really not a lot in the farm system to trade for impact now or at the deadline, unless they move one of their top two guys.
Let's talk about those top two guys for a second. I mean, they've gotten a lot of coverage in spring training. In fact, a couple of different articles have put out the how much praise that they have gotten for the ages that they are and the future for the Padres, to the point that, some of the front office might think that the, guy like Leo DeVries could show up next year, if not as early as the end of the season. With your experience in covering the minor leagues, before with your friends at Baseball America, how much of these, players, for the Padres, it seems like they're going to move them quickly, but does that timeline seem insane to you when you're talking about an 18-year-old kid and Leo DeVries?
Leo DeVries is extraordinarily talented, extremely poised for his age, and someone that you absolutely can say is advanced for, where he should be compared to most other 18-year-olds. At the same time, he has yet to play above low A, which the caliber of baseball there is absolutely horrendous. And he also hasn't played a full season. He had some injuries last year. He came up after extended spring. So the grind of learning to play every single day takes time. He still has a lot of physical development left. He still has a lot of development left defensively as well. His footwork, his throwing. I mean, if everything goes according to plan, this year should be a high A, double A kind of year. Then next year, a double A, triple A kind of year. And potentially he makes his debut mid to late 2026 when he would still only be 20 years old. That would still be a very, very quick rise for him. Rushing him any more than that, we'll see how he performs. But we've seen the Padres do this a lot where they've rushed players to their detriment. Jackson Merrill is the exception. There's about 7 other guys who they did it, and it was a complete failure. It's really important that Leo DeVries is given time to develop, to grow physically, and just get the reps he needs, and that they don't rush him because he's very talented, but he needs time.
Last question for you, Kyle. Kyle Glaser joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. Let's talk about Jackson for a second. And some of these top rookies, in their second years have not really put together really good numbers. I mean, at least the beginning part. Corbin Carroll, you saw it with. Michael Harris II, you saw it with. That adjustment that the league makes back to you is always a tough one for a lot of players. But, with the mental makeup of Jackson Merrill and his contact rate and everything like that, do you see that potentially being a problem for Jackson? Or how do you think the league is going to adjust to Jackson Merrill in year 2?
Yeah, look, there's always going to be an adjustment period. Julio Rodriguez as well. The first half of his second year was really, really bad, and then he picked it up the second half. Look, you're going to see pitchers, pitch him a little more aggressively. They have more experience with him now, and he's now one of the main guys. He's not a guy that they're going to just throw fastballs to trying to avoid the other guys. He's going to be a guy they're really, really going to dial in on and prioritize in their game planning. I think with Jackson Merrill, again, the sophomore slumps afflict even the greatest players. So if it does happen, it's no fault of his. But I think when you look at the fact that he came up last year having played 46 games above the Class A levels, having never played center field professionally in his life, comes up, plays a pretty good center field, and consistently hits from day one. His batting average didn't drop below 260 after April 6th last year. Finished top 10 in the National League in both average and slugging percentage. I mean, the adjustments he had to make last year were unbelievably large, and the fact he made them is head shaking. It's incredible what he did, having never played center field, having barely played above A ball. So the adjustments he had to make last year are greater than anything he's going to face this year, and the fact he made those so successfully, I think, gives you a lot of confidence he'll be able to make these year 2 adjustments successfully.
Kyle, appreciate the time. Always great talking ball with you, and look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be down there for opening day, the opening series against the Braves. I'll see you down there.
All right, I'll see you at opening day. Again, big thanks to Kyle Glaser joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show. A lot of great insight, especially with the his experience with the minor leagues and knowing what the teams are looking for in a lot of these players. It would be pretty remarkable to see an 18-year-old up. Today's Braden Surprenant Show. Do you know ball? Is it better to get blown out in a big game or lose in a heartbreaker? 176 votes. 53% of you said it's better in the heartbreaker than it is to get blown out. I agree. You guys know ball. I'd rather lose in the heartbreaker. I could pull some positives out of that more than just getting your ass handed to you. Coming up next, Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello. God, I feel bad for Chris. He taped that game last night and watched it when he got home. I'm sure he'll have it all broken down coming up next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan.